Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. I'm the captain of this ship. Appreciate you being here with us today. First thing is first. If you love the podcast, you're listening to it right now, you enjoy the podcast, I have some merchandise out. If you want to rep the gang, that's all it is. I'm a guy who likes to buy t-shirts of people that I like. If you are someone that likes to do the same, go to outcallyouRightBack.com. I got a merch tab up there. I got a few t-shirt choices. I got the Building Bridges t-shirt, which is a new branding logo. It's cool. Got me in there. It's a great Rudy Illustrates on Instagram if you want to check him out. Second option is the ICYRB Dare shirt. It's an ode to the classic Dare t-shirt that you would see. It's actually selling like hotcakes. Thank you for everyone who bought them. And then the third choice is the Young Berry t-shirt. That is a t-shirt that dons a photo of me from third grade with an absolute stellar bowl cut. Crazy that my mom used to dress me the way that she did and cut my hair the way that she did, but it makes for a funny story later. But yeah, I got these shirts available. They are all printed on Comfort Colors t-shirts. They are the coziest of them, of the ones that I've found. I've been printing clothes for about 10 years, and I love them. They're my favorite t-shirts that we've started to print on. And I appreciate Revival Print Company down in Lawrenceville for hooking me up with the help to get these printed quickly and shipped off to yinz. And I can't thank them enough. If you're looking for a place to print some t-shirts, Revival Print Co. in Lawrenceville is the place that I go to. I can't recommend them enough. Again, I'll call you rightback.com if you would like to buy some merchandise. I have some stickers that I will be throwing on the website here soon. My sticker game is absolutely insane. I reorganized. I've been trying to restructure and reorganize and recalibrate how I approach this. And I've had stickers since I started creating this podcast for about 5.5 years now. I have so many different ones. And before I had them just, strewn about. But now I bought some high-level organization. I was on TikTok. I've been on TikTok. My wife got me on TikTok. It's fucking crazy. You just get lost on there. But it's like, it's not all trash. There's a lot of stuff that's useful. I'll get useful video, then it'll be a crazy video of like a police interaction, then there's more useful videos. So it's a delicate line of trash internet and helpful information, but you got to look. If you look, you could find the helpful information. But I got this sticker organizer, so full circle. I'll have stickers on the website here soon. I'm pumped about it. I take pride in the merchandise. I take pride in the branding. I think I do a good job at it. And I think I do a good job at, making some quality shit. I got some eye for some quality stuff. Your t-shirts that you're going to get are quality made t-shirts. Your stickers that you're going to get, you could put them on the side of a fucking quad and go across the nation, and they're still going to be sticking on the side of that. Weatherproof, durable, the whole works. I'm not out of here cutting corners. That's what I'm saying. But I know that was a ploy to sell clothes, and I know that, I'm the one who, I'm the last person that should be buying t-shirts. I got 1 million t-shirts. I literally just got yelled at today by my wife. I don't have any more room for t-shirts, but I'm a guy that supports, if I like someone, if I like a podcast or something like that, I buy their merchandise. I like being in that club. I like knowing that I'm in the know of that. I support that. I like that. I'm a fan of it. And the merchandise is a way to do it. And, you could buy a shirt. There's nothing better than having a crispy t-shirt in the tuck for a special event. I buy t-shirts that I don't even wear immediately, but I just got them if I need them. And, there's nothing better than breaking out a nice crispy tee on a fun night to do something. And a perfect example of a fun night to do something. I'm throwing the third event with Odd Pittsburgh. You already know it. Bottle Rocket Pittsburgh, or Bottle Rocket Social Hall up in Allentown. Me and Odd Pittsburgh, we come together as one holy trinity to throw a hell of an event. This will be our third at Bottle Rocket. It's a great event. I cannot say enough about it. It's basically, it's a time capsule. It's if your uncle, who's like a yinzer Steeler fanatic, had a unlimited budget to make a sports bar and hangout, this is what it would be. It's a very, very great place. It's a very great fit for me and John. And we are coming back to give you a Halloween special. Three Rivers, Tales of Terror. What you are going to get if you come to see the Three Rivers Tales of Terror show at Bottle Rocket on Friday the 13th, yinz are in for an evening bound to give you goosebumps. Whether you're into terrifying tales, haunted history, or just mingling with fellow spirits while sipping some for yourself, this is the place to be. Join us October, Friday the 13th, if you dare. Tickets are on sale at bottlerocketpgh.com. It is going to be a great night. I cannot recommend coming to the live event enough. People ask me, do you put them out after? No. The live event is a one-of-a-kind thing that happens that day. I record them, but I don't post them. It's just me and John. It's a very, very, it's an experience. We're just up there trying to communicate all this information in a short amount of time and still be concise and make it a good experience. It's two dudes that love the city that are putting together a PowerPoint presentation. There's a bar at Bottle Rocket. You could have yourself a drink. Bring yourself a pen. Bring yourself whatever you need, and just have yourself a Friday night in October. Fall is coming. I'm getting charged up. I thrive in the fall weather, hoodie weather. I just, there's something happens to me. And right in the midst of October, Friday the 13th, it's actually my anniversary with my wife for Friday the 13th in October. But we're throwing an event, and it's going to be fantastic. There's no better way to celebrate Friday the 13th if you like history, if you like spooky, if you like Pittsburgh. This night is going to be a curated night of terrifying tales and spooky stories and creepy accounts and the whole thing. And it's going to be a great time. Tickets are going to be on sale at bottlerocketpgh.com. And I'll leave it at that. I hope to see you. Come if you dare. That's enough promo for me. That's enough about me. I appreciate you listening. And the reason that everyone is here this week, we have a very special guest. I can't be more excited about it. This week, I welcome Nick Ruble. He is an artist. He's a traveler. He's an outdoorsman. And he's just a great human being. And I met Nick through mutual friends. I linked up with him at an art show, and I follow along his Instagram, as people do now in this social media world. And I just follow along with everything he's doing. And at first, photos that I would see on his Instagram were photos of him hanging off of a boulder, photos of his friends mountain climbing, photos of the outdoors, photos of him traveling in his van. But slowly I started to see these, consistent, outrageous watercolor pieces of familiar spots around the city. And he just started posting these, and they were just mind blowing. And they're just and they just start coming in waves. He's just posting all these pieces. And I'm like, God damn, he's working hard. And I go to one of his art shows, and I buy a piece from him. We talk about this piece. It's a train car from Golden, Colorado, and it sits in my studio, and it's been hanging up in here, and I'm like, man, I need to have him on to figure out how he became this artist. And I wanted to hear more about his life and his story and how he got into the outdoors and climbing. And Nick's just a really fascinating dude. I cannot recommend you checking out his work enough. It's on Instagram. You can go to Nick_Ruble watercolors, NICK_RUBLE watercolors, and you'll see his work. He has a website, nickRubleArt.com, and it's fascinating work. It really, really is. You'll see him pop up on Reddit. He's kind of had some local fame on some Reddit subreddits. He posts a picture of him, an image of a piece that he does from a certain place, Denver, where he's from, or, here in Pittsburgh, he did Jack's, he did the McDonald's, and obviously people loved it. It's great work and it's things that people know in the city. But if you want to see his work, again, you can go on nickRubleArt.com, or on Saturday, September 9th, he is having a museum exhibit at the John A. Herman Memorial Museum in Bellevue. It's going to start at 5 p.m. Again, that's Saturday, September 9th. Nick's having a bunch of pieces displayed at the John A. Herman Memorial Museum in Bellevue. It's going to be a great time. There's going to be food and drink. There's going to be good music. There's going to be great people. What more could you want for a Saturday night in September in Pittsburgh? I'm going to head out there and I'm going to check out his work because it really is worth it. And after you listen to the conversation, I'm sure you will agree. So I hope to see you Saturday, September 9th, 5 p.m., John A. Herman Memorial Museum for the Nick Ruble Art Show. And without further ado, episode 255 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Nick Ruble.
Telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast. Dude, every single person, I promise you, not one person was like, yeah, I'm not, it doesn't bother me at all. Because especially, toss the headphones on.
Okay, yeah.
You hear it in the headphones and it's a little bit more crispy. Are those like loud enough? They sound all right?
It sounds good, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you coming over and talking to me about, all the stuff that we're going to talk about. I don't even know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. So today you were cutting down a tree?
No, actually, that didn't go through.
Yeah.
My buddy's alternator went out on his truck, so he didn't need me today.
Tale as old as time.
Yeah.
I recently had to change my alternator in my car.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it was terrible because like I had to YouTube it and change it in my parking lot at work on lunch, and I don't know. I just had to figure it out, I guess. But it's just like it always comes at the worst time whenever you have like shit
Absolutely.
that you need done.
Yeah, and it's a work truck, so there's never a good time for a work truck.
Absolutely, and you're like
break down.
Yeah, you're trying to band-aid it, so you're not like sinking a bunch of money into it.
Right.
But so I mean, you pulled up in the van. All right, I want to ask you about the van first. Okay, the van life thing is very intriguing to me. And when did you get the van?
That van we bought new. It's a 2018. We bought it 2017.
Yeah.
But that was not our first van. Our first van was years ago, probably 2014.
Yeah.
Something like that. We just bought a $300 van that we found on Craigslist. I think we paid $500 for it.
Wow.
It was just like a 93 Aerostar 4-wheel drive, like old weird one-off kind of van.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a total heap, but it got us through like 2 years, built it out, It was just enough to sleep in and put some storage in, and
$500 ain't nothing.
it was the best. Dude.
Not
it was
the best
investment.
Yeah, not a crazy investment.
No.
You're not dropping thousands on it.
No.
That's like so. I mean, what intrigues you to get a van and try to pursue that sort of somewhat of that lifestyle? Come up on that mic a little bit for me, please.
Yeah. For me, it was just wanting to facilitate the life that I wanted, essentially on like a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I spent a lot of my young life, my young teens and stuff, just traveling the Rockies or climbing, camping, all that kind of stuff. And that was when
You've always been into that?
Yeah. And in school and stuff, once we got like a car, like once, somebody in the group was old enough to drive or whatever, what do you do when you're about that age? What did we do? Growing up in Colorado, we'd try to sneak off and smoke weed. And the closest, best option for that was going to the mountains. You know what I mean? Go hide in the woods, as some kids and go disappear and stuff. So yeah, and that, growing up camping and stuff like that. So I've always been, really fond of the woods, I guess, and as corny as it sounds, is, the Rockies is
what's not to love about it.
Yeah, it's awesome. So
you were born out there?
Yeah. Born in Aurora.
Colorado. Yeah. And that's where, before you moved here, was that where you were still staying?
Yeah.
I'm curious. I swear I've read a bunch of like alien encounters out there. Are you familiar with anything like that?
I mean, down in the San Luis Valley in the southwest of the state. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a ton of bizarre. There's like a lot of military installations and like NORADs down there and stuff. So who knows what's really going on? But I've seen a lot of crazy stuff in the sky out there.
I bet it would be, because I remember whenever me and my wife went out there, I was just like Googling like, stuff to do. And it was like, oh, one of these areas has like one of the craziest, sightings of unidentified flying objects. And the other one that it was, the only other place that had it beat out was like Alaska, like somewhere crazy in Alaska.
Bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish I could remember it right off the top of my head. I remember we were at Idaho Springs and we were right around there, and it might have been right around there, but we didn't see anything crazy.
No, I mean, where I see all that stuff is down in the San Luis Valley, Southwest Alamosa.
Yeah.
We've seen, Denner.
Yeah.
We've up in the sky. I mean, 20, 30 things zipping around the sky like it's a light show. Bizarre.
Really?
Sometimes I look back on those experiences and I'm like, did that really happen? The way I like remember it, because it's like, yeah.
Well, I think it's crazy now because everyone's like, they just kind of like dropped it on us that they're like, yeah, aliens are real. And everyone's like, yeah, anyway, and they're going about their life, and people are like, no, aliens are real. And I don't know, I feel like that's not like, talked about enough, or like, I certainly don't pay it enough attention, because like, we grew up wondering, and now they're like, yeah, shit's crazy. And you're like, I don't know, I feel like it's looked past easily.
Yeah, and I think it's just still such an abstract concept.
For sure.
I mean, a lot of our like preconceptions about the subject are skewed by popular culture and like TV or like movies and stuff like that. So
absolutely,
who knows what it really even could be?
Yeah, it could just be energy. It might not be a gray little thing.
The more things are going, the more it could just be like AI, like artificial intelligence from the future.
I don't know, dude.
You know
it's
what I mean?
Wild
like,
stuff. AI is getting buck wild.
Because a lot of the catches of these things is like, well, there's no way a body, any organism could travel this far or any of that stuff. You know what I mean? But if it's a machine, that like solves half of the riddles of space travel.
Yeah, I don't know. You can go as deep as you want into it. No one's ever going to be able to figure it out. That's what's wild about it. But so growing up, I mean, like but before, back on track, right? Yeah. Before we get too crazy off. So if you grew up out there, growing up, like what kind of stuff are you into? You're just outdoorsy, like your family was outdoorsy. You guys went around a lot.
We camped when I was younger.
Yeah,
but it was more just kind of me just like seeking adventure, I suppose, my buddy's dad was like a badass rock climber in the 80s. Put up a bunch of roots out there, and he used to like show us climbing videos and stuff when I was like a young teenager, and show off all of his gear, and he would take us out camping and stuff. And
wow.
That kind of opened up that whole world of like adventure sports and stuff. And then being a teenager, and there's like snowboarding and just all that. I mean, there's a whole lifetime of activities out there. You know what I mean? So
outdoors as much as you want to spend out time.
Right, yeah. So I spent a lot of time rock climbing and stuff. And
I was always curious, like how you kind of got into that, because like that's a big part of your life, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and that's like a cool origin story of how it happens. Like friend dad who
for
was
sure,
like, into it heavy, and it's like, look at this.
Oh yeah, cool. They put up like a whole wall in the Black Canyon, which is one of the scariest places to climb in Colorado. Because there's like 2,000 foot cliffs or whatever, somewhere around there. It's a really steep deep canyon, and it's just so, I don't know about remote, but it's a wild place. Like a lot of places have very clean rock, very like sheer, like how do I put this? It's just a very loose, wild place. Like big boulders could just come off the wall.
Yeah.
It's just a very adventurous place to climb.
Wow. And that's where he set his shit up at?
Oh yeah, he had stories of using a car jack to push off like car-sized blocks off the wall, using the Park Service to shut down entire chunks of the canyon to lob stuff off to like establish this wall they called the Great White Wall.
Wow.
Apparently because they were listening to a lot of the band Great White while they're around that time, which lines up with the era,
Wow.
And just all that stuff just got me like super psyched on it. And like it was just I was like, I want to go do that.
Climbing, like climbing was something you like. When did you start climbing?
Around like 14, 15 years old. You know what I mean?
That's sick.
Yeah. It was just like a part of
the culture out there.
I guess, or part of like my friend group. Like it was just like a thing that we went and did. You know what I mean? And then your hobbies kind of dictate who you start to hang out with. So then I'm seeking out meeting people at the climbing gym or whatever. You know what I mean? And going out. Yeah.
Now, I mean, like you kind of go hard at it now, but back then, was it like a hobby, or are you like still going to? Were you like when did you want to start pursuing it? Like going to climbing gyms and like really just not just going out once a year, but like sinking your teeth into it.
From the beginning, I was hooked.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Climbing is one of those things where when you catch the bug, you're kind of like all in. Like not.
Oh, that's dope.
It's not very common for people to be super lukewarm and very often because you have to stay fit and you have to be committed. And the better you get at it, the more fun it becomes because then the harder you can climb, the more options it opens, and it just
Wow.
Yeah, you can climb, you can go explore different things.
Like, are you going up like sides of mountains and shit?
When I lived in Colorado, I did a lot of alpine climbing and stuff like that. Like or like even in Vegas has a lot of great climbing.
That's pretty crazy. You ever sleep overnight on a mountain?
No.
You ever see that stuff?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like that stuff is like, I follow it on Reddit. Just, they post pictures all the time and there's people just like literally zonked out on the side of a cliff.
It's just so tall. Like, you know what I mean?
It's wild to even think that I feel like I wouldn't even be able to like breathe up there, but,
you're probably so tired by the end of the day.
Oh yeah. You're just out.
Like,
now, besides for rock climbing, when does you're a very, very great artist. When does that come into play?
Way before climbing.
Oh yeah?
Sure. Yeah.
When you were younger?
Yeah. When I was a kid, always just kind of drawing or what. Honestly, this does sound corny, but I think about this because I get this question fairly often now. Like, when did you start or how long have you been doing this? It's like, people see it. They're like, oh, wow, how long have you been doing this?
Yeah.
And I do remember one time in like second grade, my teacher, like we were all supposed to draw. I don't know. I think it was like flowers or something. But Mr. Aldern, he taught like cousins of mine after me. He's still down there killing it at the elementary school. Shout out Mr. Aldern. He stopped the class and was just like, hey, you guys, like Nick's doing a really good job. Everybody look at what Nick is doing. And I just remember like that moment just thinking like, you know what? That is a good drawing. Like I might be good at this. And then deciding I'm going to try to draw even better. He thinks that's good. Like I'm going to do better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I really think that moment was kind of the genesis of me just from that point on, second grade, just pursuing doing cool drawings just because of the reaction I got at that one point, I think.
Yeah. What like grabbed your focus back then? Like what kind of things? Like cartoons, like
back
things
then it was
like
like
that?
Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Drawing like the X-Wing over and over, drawing like 100 X-Wings on a sheet of paper, fighting TIE fighters or typical kid stuff, drawing Disney cartoons or like whatever.
Where does like, did you have someone in your family that was like artistic that you?
My mom was an artist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What kind?
She claims she wasn't, but I grew up with canvases that she had painted just sitting around the house.
Yeah.
Flowers, seals. I remember one of them I destroyed with a purple crayon attempting to help when I was very young. She was super bummed about that. I remember kind of half getting in trouble, but not really,
Yeah, that, your heart was in it there.
Yeah,
you're
sure.
trying it out.
Yeah.
So, like going it through elementary school into like middle school and stuff, like, are you still like pretty actively into art where you're, progressing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was just kind of a thing that I felt like was a part of me, something that I drew. You know what I mean? And so any opportunity I had to, if I'm in school sucks, but this one class I get to draw, that rules. You know what I mean? So I always took art class, even in elementary school and middle school, fairly seriously. And like,
are you doing anything else besides drawing? Are you like painting it ever? Or are you
whatever
like
I could get my hands on?
Oh,
sure.
yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I remember playing with watercolors as a kid, but that's like a very common thing, right? You get the pan.
Yeah, the real cheap stuff, dollar store.
Right.
Some computer paper.
Right.
Go at it.
And I was always like I was like an only child and like very solitary person. So like diving into something like that, was like always just kind of
solitary. You mean like you were a quiet kid?
Like I spent a lot of time like hanging out by myself,
Yeah.
Equally as much as playing with friends, but there's,
Yeah.
Sure.
What other stuff are you into at this time? Like besides for like art and, the outdoors, like what other types of things were you interested in? Were you interested in sports or anything like that?
I played a lot of sports as a kid for sure. Yeah. There's at one point I was on 2 baseball teams and a soccer team at the same time. It was brutal. I feel so bad for my mom for sure.
I know.
Yeah.
You think about that now. It's like me and my brother. My brother was 6 years older than me. My dad coached, and they both were able to take us to practice. And
that's nuts.
I mean, and we both played baseball, and that's two whole different worlds. It's not even like we were on the same team. Two different age groups, and it's just crazy to think
he's
that
coaching.
Yeah, my dad was a coach at
Wow.
one. He coached for like 20 years, but it's crazy now to think about it because, I'm 33. I guess I'm an adult now, but I don't even know how you could manage it. No. I couldn't manage two kids. I can barely manage two dogs.
Right.
It's wild. Now throughout school, besides your hobbies, like, what did you think that you were going to follow into as a career?
As a career?
Yeah, like going through high school, I feel like there's a moment where people are like, I could dick around, I could do whatever, I don't like school, but you're like, oh, I'm going to be an adult, I want to be able to function as an adult and be secure.
I really wasn't even concerned about that
for a long
time. Yeah, I was like a punk rocker, like I had like a bunch of mohawks, I was in like a punk band in high school and stuff, and I was like, I wasn't thinking about college. For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, of course it was like on my radar, like what am I going to do when I graduate, and I was taking art classes and stuff like advanced art or whatever. And I had, which once you make it to advanced art, like you've kind of pursued art as a passion in high school or whatever.
Yeah, like a focus.
Right. So I had like a small art show where like some work I had done throughout the year was like selected, won a high school award or whatever, and then there was a gallery event. My uncle made it out to that, and he ran a dental laboratory, which a lot of that is sculpting and like having a good eye, and also creative. You know what I mean? Having an eye for color and stuff,
visualizing things.
Right, and he started kind of picking my brain and nudging me. I was like, "What are you going to do when you graduate? Or what's your plan? Are you going to college?" And I was like, "Definitely not going to college." Yeah. And he was like, "I think you do really good at, you seem to have a good eye. Like, come by the laboratory, come check it out one day after school and see if you like it. And maybe we'll get you a job, So I started doing that, learning how to like wax gold crowns and like make teeth essentially. And I started doing that from my sophomore year through to my senior year. And then by the time I graduated, he offered me a full-time job.
Wow.
And I wound up doing that for like 15 years.
Really?
Plus. Like that became my off and on, like a solid way to earn a living.
Yeah.
Anytime I wasn't off traveling or whatever, that was kind of a good way, because it's not something they really teach in the US.
Yeah.
It's not like my uncle learned it in the Air Force, and there's a school in the Air Force where a lot of dental technicians, especially back then, learned it. And that's kind of how the industry like really flourished in the US. A lot of dentists get their teeth from China, honestly.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
What do you mean get their teeth from it? Like you order your molds?
Like, have you ever had a crown made?
I feel like I've never had I don't know if I've had a crown. I've never had a cavity, or I've had a couple cavities. I don't know if I've had fillings.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you've had
a crown is a tooth, right? It looks like a tooth. Like they have a nub down and they put that.
They grind your entire tooth down.
Okay.
And then replace it with a fake tooth.
What's the difference of that and a veneer?
A veneer is typically cosmetic.
Oh, okay.
And they, instead of a 360 grind down of your tooth, it's just the front.
Oh.
And they cap the front of your teeth with like a porcelain little tile almost that looks like it's a nicer shape, color, whatever, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Remind me if I'm not up on this mic.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
I don't like immediately just being like, hey, come up on that mic, because people are in the middle of a story and it might jog them off.
Right. Well, and I'm just getting used to the headphones.
Yeah, I get it. Like, no worries at all. It still will sound good, but the teeth and stuff, that's pretty. Right. That's kind of like an interesting like. Did you have any other jobs before that?
I mean, I worked for Vail Resorts for a while in my teens and stuff too, or my 20s.
Yeah. So, but what I'm getting at really is like, a lot of like, I had every stupid, ridiculous job, janitors, everything like that.
For sure.
It's cool that you kind of found a place that you could kind of like, depend on kind of early on.
Right. I mean, I did I was like a pizza boy when I was 16.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like odd jobs like that.
Yeah.
But the dental job was always like a solid thing to fall back on for sure. And
for sure. I mean, it sounds like it. Right. And you enjoyed it because you were kind of doing, something creative.
I enjoyed it, especially when I was climbing a lot.
Yeah.
Because all my creative energy was totally spent by the end of the day making teeth, staring through a microscope for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Because that's just how I work. Not all technicians stare through a scope, but it was the most comfortable for me.
Wow.
And yeah, so by the end of the day, I was completely creatively drained, tired. I can't focus. The painting was the last thing I ever wanted to do. And I really didn't paint a lot when I was making teeth. It was just like, it wasn't there for me. But climbing was like, I was all over it because I'd been sitting all day. All I wanted to do was go move.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I don't really know how I got onto that, but
we were talking about like, you know, what you were planning to do with your life. And you were saying that you didn't really have an intention to go to college, but your uncle had this opportunity.
That's right.
And, you know, that's crazy that you worked there for as long as you did. But as you're working there, coming up to being a senior, you graduate school, you know, are you just planning on like, I just want to go climb and kind of be a drifter for a little bit?
Right. And I even, in 2008, I graduated in 2007.
Okay.
And in 2008, the economy crashed and he had to shut down his lab. And everybody got fired. It was like a whole thing.
Yeah.
It was a bummer. And at that point I was like, okay, yeah, but I'm young. Like I'm like 20 something. Like this is my chance to go move to the mountains. And I got a job working for Vail Resorts, washing dishes for like $7 an hour.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And, which, you know, rent, like, I didn't want to rent like an apartment or like a lot of places. If you work for the resorts, they put you up in a apartment and they take out of your check the rent, and then you get maybe a couple $100 like every couple of weeks.
Oh, that's cool.
They take advantage of people because they know that like you get a free ski pass.
That's what I was just going to ask. Like I'm sure you get free lifts and all that.
Right. So, but I had a buddy whose family had lived in the town of Frisco up there in between Breckenridge and like Keystone, Copper Mountain, like a really central town. His family had a cabin, like 100-year-old cabin with no running water, just logs and like a furnace and some couches and some bunks.
Wow.
That they let us live there for free. Essentially.
No way.
And it was like 4 of us in like literally like if I slept in a bunk in like this certain corner, I would wake up with snow on me and I'd like stuff newspaper in between the logs to like stop the bad storms from like, it was
God.
Or like there's like a heater with a big tube coming out of it. And there's, again, no running water. So there's a natural spring near our resort that we would go drive to. And it was one person's job every time the 7-gallon drum ran out to go hike up to the mountain and fill it up with 7 gallons of our water. And that's what we'd use to cook and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the heat tube, if you're like super cold, you'd like go hunt down the heat tube and stuff it in your sleeping bag and like steal it from your buddy who had it stuffed in his sleeping bag to like try to warm up a little bit on like super cold nights. Yeah, it was super rugged, but it was totally worth it to like live up there and like have some extra money and like just live the whole...
Oh my God, the experience of it. It sounds wild. How long did that happen?
Ski bum life. I lived there for like 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah. I wound up skiing out of bounds and broke my leg while I was on the job and got fired. Towards the end of the season.
You got fired?
Yeah, because I was technically skiing out of bounds. Like I ducked some ropes to like hit this little like thing, and like
I get what you're saying.
I like clipped something and like tomahawked. And
it's that crazy up there. They're like, you're out of bounds, you're out.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think it was honestly because I got hurt.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But yeah, they're very strict. They're like, you follow the rules here. You know what I mean? Because if you're a paying customer and you get caught skiing out of bounds, they'll just yank your pass. It doesn't matter. You paid $160 for the day.
Wow.
Like they'll be like, and I have friends that are technically banned from Vail Resorts for life. I mean, I don't know how you enforce that with the goggles and the helmets and stuff. You know?
That's crazy.
Some of them got easily spotted by their jackets, but eventually that stuff goes away.
Man,
they don't play.
Just living in a cabin for a couple years with some people.
Yeah, with some buddies. Yeah, for sure. Climbing in the summer and snowboarding all winter.
God, like what do you do in your downtime there? Like if are you?
I was drawing a lot for sure.
Oh yeah,
painting in the cabin and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
But also like downtime, like climbing or whatever. That's all it was.
Yeah, but I mean, like dead of the winter, you guys are just in the cabin. Like what do you do? Like I assume you don't have a TV.
So we don't
have
right? Yeah, we had a TV with like a set, like 4 DVDs that we had or whatever.
Yeah, Desert Island DVDs.
George Washington autobiography. I would like flip through or whatever. Like
that's some gangster stuff.
Badass George Washington portrait above the fireplace. Like this place is so old, and so it was like weird. Like mansions are popping up in this neighborhood, and this little cabin is like soaking up like acres of property.
Wow!
In this blowing up like area, it was a trip for sure. But yeah, we we didn't have a bathroom. You know, we had an outhouse, but that became super full and we couldn't get it drained in time or filled or whatever. We'd go to like the Breckenridge Recreation Center, and that's where we would shower.
Oh, that's cool.
There's like a climbing gym there. We would hit the sauna, hit the hot tub. It was a super simple life for sure. I mean, we'd be so tired from skiing all the time or snowboarding or all that downtime was like honestly like drinking or sleeping.
Yeah.
You know, most mountain towns are like super party towns, you know.
Wow.
So
What a cool experience.
looking back on it for sure. Yeah. And I was definitely aware that like that whole time from like when I started working for this ski resorts all the way to like being a total like climbing bum, sleeping on couches or sleeping in tents and traveling around the desert, I was definitely aware that these are like the good years that like I was certainly seeking out for most of my 20s for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's cool. After you get fired from there, like how old are you? Like what's the plan after that?
After I got fired from a basin, what did I do? Oh, okay. So there's this guy named Soul Man that I worked in the kitchen with. Total character. Yeah. Really nice, sweet guy.
I can't even tell by the name.
Yeah, Soul Man. Yeah, total legend. Like I'm sure even if you bring up Soul Man in a basin, I wonder what he's up to now. He always talked about this sick townhome that he inherited in Denver. And he was like, up in the mountains, a lot of people, it's a very transient area. Not everybody's from a local, you know what I mean? So he was like psyched to be like, oh, you're from Denver. Like I have a house in Denver, and he was like, oh, you can go live there anytime. He'd always say that. And so when I got fired and my time was coming to an end and I was like, I can't live this ski bum life forever. I want to go back down to the Front Range. I hit him up and I was like, yo, let me live in your house. And he was like, okay. And it was legit like a sick townhome, like $3 million townhome. It didn't make any sense. Like this guy was
just empty?
Empty. Well, no, not empty. There's a library with 3 different languages in the basement. There's like a original like Picasso and Dali like sketch framed and like built into the wall in this house.
Jesus.
It was like a grand piano. It was like a sick, super bizarre.
I mean, but no one was living in his townhome?
No, well, okay. He had like a nephew that was like squatting there also. And I say squatting because sometimes the power would just go out.
Oh, wow.
And he would be like, and I paid this dude like $100 a month. Like he didn't ask for anything for the sick hotel in the city. It never made any sense. But then and he would show up. Like I knew he lived far away and he would just show up randomly and like take things from the house and disappear.
Wow.
And so I don't really know what was going on. He said it was his long lost uncle's house that he got.
Yeah.
But I started finding non hetero pornography around the house and like weird hints that like led to me think that this was perhaps like his a partner of his that had passed away or something, and this house was like really weighing on him in a way. Like he wasn't able to take care of it, or like he couldn't even pay the taxes. I don't think I would have like real estate agents knocking on the door when I didn't have electricity that were like, what's up? Like, I'm interested in buying this house. And I'm like, okay, something's going on here.
Yeah, that's crazy. What a wild situation.
And then after that, my great grandparents started aging. We're getting older and stuff. And once I would kind of be taking care of them a little bit, taking care of their house.
You said your great grandparents?
Great grandparents
How
living
old?
in Denver. Oh, like late 70s, 80s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, once they passed away, I moved into my great grandparents' house and started fixing the place up for my 9 uncles and aunts to sell or whatever. And they let me live there for a little while to fix the place up to help sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, like I was just kind of, after the mountains, I was just kind of bouncing around Denver.
Trying to figure it out.
Trying to figure out my next move. But honestly, trying to figure out my next non-committal move. Trying to figure out how am I going to go keep climbing more. Like I'm still super stoked on the mountains, still super stoked on adventure, sports, all that kind of stuff.
Let me ask you this, like at this point in your life, if you could, gauge it on a scale, would you say you're an advanced climber?
Yeah.
Not like right now I'm saying, but I'm saying like at that moment, whenever you're climbing out there, like how do you gauge
that's also relative.
I guess that's
I'm
fair.
certainly not novice. I'm an experienced climber.
Yeah, but you're going out by yourself and climbing sometimes and
bouldering, you know, or like I'll set up a top rope solo or like basic things, you know what I mean? Yeah. But in Colorado or like even out here, honestly, in the climbing community, there's a wide range of like ability, and there's and now that it's becoming more and more popular, what is considered really good, what was considered really, really good, especially at that time in like the early aughts or whatever, is so different from what's considered like what I climb now. When I started climbing around that time, I would never have thought that that was like the pinnacle of like hard. And it's kind of, unless you're like really in the weeds or really into climbing, it goes by a number grade essentially.
You were pursuing being a better climber.
I guess, yeah, being the better climber, but that's for me that the aspect of becoming a better climber is honestly just to open up more options to go. Because for a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with this, but for a lot of people, the point for them to climb is to become the best climber, competitive either against themselves or other people.
Yeah.
They want to push that limit, and that's a really fun, super rewarding aspect of climbing. That
you wanted access.
I just wanted like sometimes you look up this mountain and you're like, that thing is sick. I need to stand on top of that thing. Or like this whole face looks beautiful. That valley looks rad.
Yeah.
I want to get there. Let's go do that. And then you look it up and you're like, this is so far out of my league. I can't even sniff it. Like, no way can I go up there.
Yeah.
I'm not that strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if I were to go up there not lacking the ability, it's super dangerous.
Yeah.
Probably.
No shit.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of the driving force behind getting better. And along with getting stronger is getting more knowledgeable about the gear, more knowledgeable about your surroundings, about the mountains and stuff. And there's so many subcategories. I mean, even bouldering is such a unique subcategory of climbing that even has its own grading scale.
Yeah.
That's broken down to the V scale, V0, V1, V2, V3.
Okay, yeah.
And up, which basically
is paths in between breaks down the difficulty of the paths, like the routes up, right?
Right. But yeah, so there's just so many different reasons to climb, ways to climb, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I was a proficient climber, but honestly, my main goal was just to go explore, go find, because every time you go to a new area, you're like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like some people get very picky about what kind of rock they climb or what areas they climb, what style they climb. I was just more just like, what else is out there? Let's go find it.
It's interesting to hear how you talked about how you said like you wanted to find the next thing that was temporary almost, because like you wanted this to be a focus for you to be able to explore and kind of not be tied down into like
For sure. Yeah. And I knew that I wanted security eventually in my life. So I knew that the time was finite for me to get out there and explore and do all these things.
Let me ask you kind of a weird question. At this time, like whenever you're like living, I don't know, out of your, vehicle, couch surfing a little bit like that, how are you keeping your efficiency? Like how do you do that? Is that a weird question?
Like sustenance and stuff, like all like the things that you need in life. Like how do I go about achieving these things while
while you're climbing and like while you're doing all this stuff? And
you mean even just like logistically being out and about, like without just like non-perishable stuff or like freeze-dried crap or canned stuff. I became really fond of canned white meat chicken.
Okay, yeah,
you know what I mean. But a lot of it wasn't as like, it's not like I'm out in the woods for weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get that.
And if I was, I would like pack up like a few days worth of food, maybe a week's worth of food. And we'd be like short on water. We have to drive into town and go get it. Not a whole lot of like backpacking long excursions or whatever. And
okay. Yeah.
Stuff like that. It was more just like getting out and just like, go climb today, go climb tomorrow.
Guess it was a dumb question, kind of.
No, I get it. You know what I mean? I was living on nothing. Like I was so broke.
That's what I mean. Like, are you efficient at that time? Like, were you very good at living at on a very tight budget back then?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I got like one mural when I was living in Flagstaff. So after I fixed up my grandparents' house and it sold.
Yeah.
I had a buddy that I climbed with a lot. It's like a regular, one of my main climbing homies that got a job for BNSF.
What's that?
It's a railroad company.
Oh, okay.
So he became like an engineer.
Yeah.
Driving the train across country and stuff, and then became a yard master in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Okay.
Which is like a super cool climbing mecca, like the Boulder of Arizona. There's like a ski resort there in Arizona. It's like there's like volcanoes everywhere, just great rock climbing. And he had moved out there and was like, dude, you got to come check this place out. Come crash on my couch. Come hang out. He's working for the railroad, is super demanding hours wise and on your body.
Yeah.
And stuff. And so there would be weeks where he was just sleeping because he's working night shift. He's sleeping all day. You know what I mean? So he was like, come enjoy this area or whatever. And that's kind of what I did. I went and climbed with my buddy Graham. And that was like, those were definitely the golden years of my climbing career and everything for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's like the most I don't know, what's like to you, what's your most impressive thing that you've, climbed?
Oh, impressive.
Like what's difficulty wise? Like what's something
12,
that kind of blew you away?
12C is like the hardest I've ever climbed.
Where's that at?
For sure. In this place called Clear Creek Canyon, classic route called Kent Tank. And you got to like cross, it's like a raging river in this canyon, Clear Creek. You got to cross a tire lean to get there.
Wow.
It's like a rope attached to a tree and then attached to a wall or attached to a boulder, and you got to kind of shimmy across the river to get there. I don't even like. Yeah, it was cool to climb that thing or whatever. But honestly, most of my most memorable things are just about like the position or like the place or whatever, like the weather, like the fog,
the whole
or
moment
something.
of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like the vibe, for lack of a better word.
That's cool.
For sure. Yeah.
Now, in this moment, whenever you said like at one point you want to, eventually you want to figure out a more permanent situation. You know, like how, like what happens after you're, running around Arizona and you're couch surfing and you're just exploring. Like what happens in that moment?
The fairly cliche. I met a girl.
Yeah.
That was like, I was like, oh, dude, I'm such a loser. Like I'm like, I got no money. You know what I mean? Like I had nothing to offer this girl. I was living in Flagstaff.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of friends in Colorado that were from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Well, one friend in particular, Mike McKelvey. I don't know if you
I'm
heard
familiar.
of him.
Yeah.
Familiar?
I
Okay.
am.
Rest in peace. He's living in Denver, and he is my connection to Pittsburgh. He's a badass mountaineer, snowboarder. Before he passed away, he was working with Travis Rice in the Tetons, building his natural selection course, leading a crew. But anyways, so my buddy Mike hits me up because he knows I'm living in Flag, and he's like, I'm taking a bunch of friends from Pittsburgh that down to the sand dunes, which is like equidistant from Denver to Flagstaff.
Yeah.
It's like 4 or 5 hours or whatever. He's like, you should come up and meet us. So I begged my buddy to let me borrow his truck to drive up to meet them, and he did. I drive up and I meet my friends, the Narf's sister. They're all off in the sand dunes, like exploring or whatever, and she's just hanging out at the campsite by herself. And it was just like, the sand dunes is like a national park, super romantic place. It was just one of those things where it's just like
Perfect.
We met, and it was
perfect
just like,
moment.
whoa, this is crazy. You know what I mean? And like we hit it off, and then it was like a few days short camping trip. Since I hit it off with her, they were going back to Denver. I begged my buddy even harder to let me keep his truck and take it to Denver to continue to hang out with them.
Wow.
And then the time came for them to drive back to Pittsburgh, and I had to go back to Flag to get my buddy his truck back.
Yeah.
And I just stayed in touch with Natalie. And from there I was like, that's when the fire was in me, and I was like, okay, big boy job. Like, what am I going to do? What, like, because I was like, come move to Colorado with me. Like, she's psyched on Colorado. She just had this epic trip across the country.
Yeah.
She's like, young and like just like wanting to take that next step. And so was I, and so I started looking for dental lab jobs back in Denver.
Oh, okay.
And I found a newish lab that had opened up, and I was still, I knew I could still do it. It had been a few years, but I was like,
yeah, I'm sure you could pick it back up.
I hyped myself up for sure. And I like inflated my resume a little bit, and I asked for more money than I could ever, I was like, this job might pay me a lot if I asked for it. And they did. And I was like, okay.
Oh,
sick.
nice. Wow.
They gave me the job. I left my buddy's house. He's
Went from nothing, just chilling.
Yeah.
And then you find this job that's a little bit better.
I was living on like a couple $100 a month to like making, like $60,000 a year, like right away. And
couple hundred a month.
I mean, dude, I was like,
yeah,
well, I had one mural in Flag at a friend's brewery that like paid me $800.
And you like
that, dude. I stretched that so far. It was insane.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, in hindsight now, obviously things are, probably more comfortable, but back then I feel like it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like that's something that you'll always remember, like.
Oh, I remember like every week.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
Like it makes it more meaningful.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool to hear. So you get your big boy job, and that's back in Colorado.
That's in Colorado.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm like,
and when was this? When is this? Like what year?
14, 15.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. 2015.
And how old are you at this time?
20. What I'm 30.
24 back then.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
or 20, 25. Yeah,
somewhere around there.
Okay, yeah. Just an idea.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Like all in this time where you're like, drifting around, sleeping in fucking cabins in the woods.
Right.
You're young. 19, 20, 21, where it's just like
I'm fully acting like
that's standard. You know what I mean? You're wilding out, dude. The dogs are out, but it's like eventually 25, you're trying to figure shit out.
I sort of was, yeah. And I mean, who knows what I would have kept doing? My buddy would have probably kicked me out.
Yeah.
I probably would have got, because my buddy Graham, he's still living in his van full time. And he had been living in his van full time before we met back then.
Wow.
He's living in Zion right now. Badass climber. Well, he quit climbing like a loser and he's mountain biking now. I'm making fun of him. He didn't quit climbing, but like
focusing more energy into mountain biking.
Mountain biking is just a trap that everybody falls in because it's so fun.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm too scared to do it.
Once you take your first digger and you get up and you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad.
My luck, I'm going to just like fall down and my collarbone's going to be sticking through my skin.
Yeah, that is the worst fear.
Yeah.
You got to tuck harder.
All I imagine, like I'm cool with like, the idea of like whipping around a berm, but my thing is like, I know there's going to be one moment where I'm just enjoying it and the front is going to like hit off of a little like hill or something.
Right.
And I'm going to be smacking my face right off the fucking ground.
No,
but I get it.
Like, it's not quite like skateboarding where you catch that rock and you go flying.
Yeah.
No, you'll eventually you'll be like nothing bad is ever going to happen to me.
And that's the moment where shit's going to go bad and I'm going to be fucked up.
You're probably right.
Yeah,
for sure.
I know. I don't even want to talk myself into it. I have friends that are all doing it now. Like I'm friends with a lot of the people in the cycling community and they, like they're all just ripping. It looks so fun. And I know we have like such beautiful resources in the city, but I don't want to buy a bike because I'll become obsessed and, I'm cool with my beach cruiser.
That is what it is too. Once you buy that bike, you're all in.
Yeah, you're all in.
I mean?
It's like, fuck.
Or you're looking at that bike feeling bad about yourself like every day, which
you're
is
like, I need to get on that.
Yeah.
But, so you were saying that Graham was biking, but what were you getting at?
Okay, no, yeah. So we were trying to, I made the leap from vagabond bum to moving back in with my mom, trying to save up money, got my lady living with me with my mom, and she lived with me in Colorado for 6 years or so.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and we just saved up, but at this time the housing market's just like
crazy.
Up.
Yeah. The whole time yinz are living there, you're doing the dental job?
I'm doing the dental job.
Yeah.
Yep. For that Custom Milling Center was the name of the company. And then one day like the owner shows up and he's like, what do you guys do here again? Like, he's like this big rich guy. And we're like, we make teeth. He goes, oh yeah. Like, and I was like, this place is not going to last. Like the dude that bought us doesn't even know what the hell we do. And then it got shut down. And then me and my buddy that I worked there with started our own laboratory, working for like 7 different offices.
Wow.
Making implants, making crowns and bridges and stuff like that for a doctor.
In them years, you got pretty good at it?
Yeah, and I had always been decent at it because I just felt like I had an eye for it or whatever, and anything I kind of pour myself into, I feel I do decent at. So yeah, I and not everybody does the porcelain work that I kind of took to or whatever. It's a very niche skill within it, and it's kind of the most dentists pay the most for that work.
Wow.
So that's a skill that laboratories want because they want to tell the doc, I can offer you high end work.
Yeah.
And not everybody can offer that. You know what I mean? So
you guys just started your own?
My friend knew a dentist that is very picky and does a lot of work and needed a hands-on lab in her office to work directly with the patients and get stuff turned around in a day. Want to just offer this boutique crown
fine tune everything.
Yeah. So with my sort of artistic skills and my buddy's business and technical know-how, we got a couple other friends that we had worked with in the industry and just built a little 4-person lab. And that helped me to continue to save more money, And throughout this time living there with my mom and living, back home, Natalie being from Pittsburgh, we would visit a lot. What I mean? Visiting the Narfs, visiting all my friends in the scene out here. And we just always loved it. We always really enjoyed our trips back out to Pittsburgh. It always felt like a super livable city to me.
It's hard not to love.
Dude,
especially if you have a support system that you do.
That's what it is. Our community's sick.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you guys are filled with all great people,
Right.
and it's like I have a privilege of knowing a lot of yins, and it's hard not to. I feel like I would be more apprehensive if I was to just. If I was just to move to, some fucking wild ass place like Austin or something where, it's big, you don't know anyone there, and I feel like it's overwhelming, but you got people here that are already like in the know. They know about the good places.
The day we made the decision, there was like a group chat I hopped on. I was like, guess what, boys?
Yeah.
And they're like,
fuck yeah.
Shit.
That's awesome. So you came back here and it's like, what's the, like in this moment, these past 6 years while you're doing the teeth, are you still not doing artwork because all your creative efforts are going into that?
For the most part. Yeah.
Really?
Honestly. I mean, so when I was living at my buddy's house crashing, I was like not working obviously in the dental field. And I was just in his living room when he wasn't home, like painting. Honestly, still to this day, some of my best work.
Like painting what?
I made on wooden panels, like painting nothing like what I paint now. And honestly, if you go back in my other Instagram account, deep enough in my feed, you'll see a lot of it. Like pronghorns and rams with like,
oh, wow.
Like abstract sort of imagery. Are
you using like
it.
acrylics?
Mixed media, a lot of mixed media.
Wow.
Yeah. I had a studio in the city in Denver too when me and Natalie were living there. And I was doing a little bit of work.
Like for who? Like, are you doing commission work?
No,
are you
just
just selling? Oh, okay. But are you doing anything with that work? Like, is it being sold at this time where you're like,
friends would see it and be like,
yeah, but not like, you're not putting yourself out there.
No, just for the love of the game.
Okay.
Honestly, yeah.
I love it.
And all my,
for the love of the game, baby.
Yeah, it was just great. And having the studio in the city and having the friends and having the cool place to go and make stuff and be able to make a mess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But for the most part, I didn't really start like taking it seriously or really diving in until the pandemic in Colorado hit. And we're at home, just stuck at home like everybody else.
When did you move here?
Like right peak pandemic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So whenever the pandemic hit, you were out there.
Right. Yeah. I was in Colorado, and that was like a stressor for a lot of people that like led to like, what am I going to do? Let's make a change. It was a big inflection point for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And interest rates were so low, and we were looking for houses and just the prices. It was just like, we're looking at the monthly payments and all that stuff. And it was just like, okay, so I'll never be able to quit the dental lab industry, like ever. There's no way, at least for the way I've designed my career.
Yeah.
Structured my life. Like I can't see myself earning enough money to buy one of these houses I want.
Yeah, and pay a fucking $1,500 mortgage and consistently do that,
dude. Like, for sure, like 3 racks, and
yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, it's just not sustainable. And again, Pittsburgh was always like, every time we left, came out here, it was awesome, and we started shopping around there and saw how far out here and saw how far our money got us, and we were like,
yeah, compared to back then, it makes more sense.
Right. And honestly, the dental lab industry is bigger out here.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's just more.
I guess there's more places around. It's more concentrated.
More older people too, or something. And it's like,
that's interesting.
I'm not sure what it is.
Like per capita, like
right.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Right.
So you came out here doing dental work?
Yeah, I got when I moved out here. Actually, a guy that I worked with in Colorado at that custom milling center.
Yeah.
A German dude just happened to live here.
Wow.
Just happened to live in Pittsburgh and work for a dental lab in Monroeville, like right by me. And like it all just like everything just lined up. And I reached out to him and he knew I did good work. So I didn't even really have to negotiate like salary. I was
bizarre.
I was like, Thomas, you know what I do.
Yeah.
Like give me a job. He's like, oh yeah, come tomorrow. And it just like worked out, So I was able to take that same pay.
Yeah. So it wasn't as like, it wasn't as crazy to like come over here and like be scrambling to find a place.
No, we chilled for a little bit and then Thomas hooked me up.
Dude, that's dope.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like that's like end of 2020?
2020. Yeah. Once we decided we were going to hit the road, we just like hopped in the new van at the time and just.
So out there, you bought a different van, like with the intention?
No, that was the 2018 van, like the 2017 pre-pandemic. And that was just more just to get out, camping.
Yeah,
be able
and
to
do
set
all
up,
that.
all that. You know,
Okay,
just
so
a camper van.
that's dope that like you had that like had that resource to be able to come over here.
We were ready. Yeah. We spent months on the road.
Yeah.
Went up to Wyoming for a bit, up to Devil's Tower, over into South Dakota.
Wow.
Spearfish and stuff. We hit Sturgis 2020 during the pandemic.
Spearfishing.
No, Spearfish is a place in South Dakota.
Oh my God!
Beautiful
I was like,
place.
you're spearfishing?
No, beautiful place in South Dakota. Right near Sturgis.
Oh wow! How was that experience?
Sturgis during the pandemic was wild.
Yeah, probably the
sure.
wildest thing.
Oh, it was insane. And us coming from a place where the pandemic is full blown.
Yeah.
And then we go up in rural Wyoming, and you're talking to people in little gas stations, corner stores, and they're like, that's not even real.
Yeah.
Because they haven't had one case at that point in Wyoming.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And we're like up there, like wearing our masks, like it's coming.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah, that's fucking wild.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What an eerie thought. I remember thinking like, oh, it's always over, or it's only in China. And you're like,
Dude.
For how long? And then it's just like, you remember that moment? It's just fucking wild to think that was 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now,
Well,
too.
and honestly, I believe I had COVID before the pandemic.
I think a lot of us did, because I feel like I was sick as fuck before the pandemic,
For real.
and my wife was sick, and there was someone else I knew that was sick, like deathly ill.
Yes,
and
it had to have been.
It had to have been something like that,
Right.
and that we just weren't like aware of it yet. Because I remember specifically, like a month before all this shit started happening, we both had like this crazy, like feverish, weird, like
the cold sweats,
dude. It was wild. It was a wild experience, and we were all. I remember like literally saying, both of us, like, we've never been sick like this before.
Yes.
And it had to be something like that. And then I remember Matt talking about that. Like, Matt was one person
Yep.
who had it early, that I remember him telling me about it. And it was, I don't know, just an eerie time. It's an eerie time that to even think that was going on.
The only time I've ever been that sick was when I had H1N1 swine flu.
You had swine
I
flu?
had swine flu, and I remember walking.
Jesus.
I remember being so sick, and you're young, 20. It's like you never go to the doctor for anything.
Well, what's the origin of the swine flu?
I don't remember, but I remember being so sick that it dragged my young ass into the hospital.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I walk in, and they had a quarantine room built up in the hospital back then. And it said, if you're experiencing these symptoms, put on a mask, put on these gloves, and go into the separate waiting room.
That's for the swine flu.
Because you might have swine flu. And I remember reading it all and just this sinking feeling and being like, I have fucking swine flu.
What was your, like what were your symptoms?
It's just like, the only thing I can compare it to is like when I had COVID.
Oh, wow.
Like legit, just the sickest. I was like, oh, this is how people die from having the flu. Like you could just feel it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Feel your body like almost like getting like taken over.
Correct. Like
and you
I'm
just can't
losing
move
it.
off the couch. Right. Yeah, it's crazy it's crazy. And then like 2 days later, you're like, all right, cool.
Yeah, better.
My body fought this off.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah,
so during the pandemic is whenever you started ripping on artwork again. That's where we were at.
Yeah, that's when I was just like preoccupied. When am I can't go outside. You could go climb, but like also there's like a whole, like everybody's like, don't go out and climb because if somebody has to come rescue you, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's a good point.
And so I was just, what am I going to do? I just went and bought some watercolor paper. I was like getting into like watching YouTube videos and stuff. And
did you use watercolors before this?
not like I do now or even close.
Yeah.
No. It was just more of maybe it was just like one thing that I probably saw. I don't even remember exactly one specific thing that pulled me into it. But for whatever reason, I was just like, this medium looks fun. Let's play with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very interesting.
Kind of what I did.
And like, what are you painting first? Like what kind of things like got you excited?
Boulders and like mountains,
Really?
rocks, nature, cactus, stuff like that. Yeah. Honestly, but with watercolor at the time, it was more about exploring the process.
Yeah.
So these subjects just happen to be things I was interested in or what, you know what I mean? The same way I go about painting now, I see something and it strikes me and I'm like, okay, how do I communicate the way I just saw that or what I felt, or I felt like that'd be a cool painting. Let's paint it.
Like that train in Colorado that you painted that's on the wall.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That caboose in golden, stared at it all the time. Sometimes the light would catch it just right and it would be singing and you're like, oh yeah.
And I think that was such like a weird experience whenever I like looked at that and you told me like, oh yeah, that was in Golden, Colorado, and that's like one of the places that we went out there that
sure.
we both loved. And I was like, that was it was crazy.
Right. Yeah.
But now for you, like, are you just going out into, the outdoors and you're just like sitting there with an easel?
No, because this is COVID.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I'm
I guess so.
like
Jesus.
flipping through my phone, looking at climbing photos.
Okay.
And honestly, inventing scenes, just inventing boulders, just drawing shapes and turn this into a rock, just playing with the medium, exploring the medium, seeing, what I can accomplish with it. And honestly, just out of boredom.
You're like watching videos and stuff on like techniques and everything?
I would watch videos, but honestly, at this point, it was just to play.
Yeah.
It was a lot of
like giving you ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. In the back of my head, being into art throughout all this, through my whole life, there's always that feeling that like, oh, you could be an artist one day, or like you could, but also that like, how am I the starving artist thing and all that kind of stuff. Like,
when does that like, become a reality where you're like, oh, I'm painting enough where, like when does that like watercolor kind of take hold where you're just like diving into it like you are now, and it ultimately to you selling your artwork?
Well, the reason if I didn't want to be an artist, or if we didn't want to live the kind of life that we're building for ourselves now, we probably would have stayed in Colorado and just bought the house in the city or done something, you know what I mean? But part of the reason moving out here and trying to get our budget to where it is now is so that I could take the risk to become an artist. You know what I mean? So in the back of my mind, while moving out here, I was thinking, this is opening up more options for me. If I can get my finances dialed in, maybe I can pursue these things that I really want, and spending all that free time out in the mountains by myself or living the super autonomous life, it's always been really intoxicating, the thought of being able to do what I want in that respect. So that's kind of the driving force out here was, I got the dental lab job so I can qualify for the loan so I could get into a house.
Yeah.
But the final goal was always for us to set up a life for ourselves where we can explore these things or flourish in these ways that we want. You know what I mean? And art was just one of those things that I thought, why not? Let's do it. So once I worked for that dental lab job out here just long enough to where I could qualify for the loan to get the house, and we started shopping immediately. Once we got in the house and we had everything settled, we both just quit our jobs and just kind of went in on our own thing.
Wow.
And that's where we've been for about 2 years now.
Wow. Full tilt.
Obviously I'm not, I'll work like odd jobs. And like I was talking about cutting down that tree, there's like a couple of years in Colorado where I was doing tree work.
Oh, okay.
Technical tree removals, climbing trees and cutting them down and stuff. So
you were a climber?
Tree climber, yeah.
That's wild. My uncle has a very successful tree business, so I'm kind of privy to what goes into it, and it's wild. It's an art form for sure.
Dangerous as hell. I got hurt. I got put in the hospital a couple times for sure.
It was like it's mind blowing to me to like I had this crazy ass tree that was leaning so crazy like over our house.
Yeah,
and my neighbor was putting up a garage, so he was like, "Yeah, we cool if we cut this down?" I was like, "Yeah, it's fine." And my uncle, I was like, wait till the neighbor gets here. I was like, don't fucking cut that down yet, because if anything happens, I'm just not going to be dealing with it.
Real, yeah.
Like anything. And my uncle was like, all right, well, I'm going to get it set up. And he has this truck pulleyed from like one end to like getting onto this tree so he could pull it. And then, I run inside. He was like, go grab me a water. And like, by the time I get down there, he's already running the chainsaw and it drops perfectly where it needs to. And he's like, you got to have faith in me. And I'm like, yeah, dude. But like,
that's that's more impressive than climbing a tree.
It's wild. He's definitely a master at his craft, but it's a wild profession in general. And to like do it gives you respect.
It was just because I was a climber at the time, and I was like...
Well, that's why I asked you if you were climbing trees, because I know it's dangerous, and I know it's wild.
Right. But I was just looking for ways to earn the most money I possibly could.
For sure.
And I didn't want to go to the dental field. I wanted to stay strong or whatever, and I found a tree outfit in Colorado that paid me well and taught me how to climb. And then I've been doing that for odd jobs out here every once in a while.
Yeah.
For a guy that I met at an art market.
Okay.
Actually.
That's interesting.
Yeah. We were just talking at my booth, and he was like, yeah, I run a tree company. And I was like, oh, I used to climb.
Huh.
He was like, okay, I'll call you.
That's awesome.
Climbers, you can't find anybody
that'll
throw the spikes and the harness on and the chainsaw.
It's a wild thing.
Harness,
just attached to your belt of a running chainsaw. Yeah. It's wild. But so, I mean, like to supplement your full tilt art excursion for both you and Natalie, it's like you what is your mentality as far as, doing this full time? Like, are you like, I'm going to work this many hours a day, I'm going to try to pump out this many pieces a week? Did you have like did you have any sort of expectations for yourself?
I consider myself fairly driven if it's something I really do care about, so I kind of trying to have faith that the process will fall into place. I have my studio at my house where I have a climbing wall that helps my ADD. If I'm like, the climbing wall is in my art studio. Yeah. So I'll kind of bounce back and forth to help myself, because I'm a very attention deficit individual for sure. But I'm sorry, what was the question you asked?
I was asking like, do you develop something to like, instill like, I'm going to start working, I'm sure if you like, don't work this job that you don't have to work, it could be comfortable, like, oh, I'm going to go, hike, or I'm going to go climb some more, or this and that. So do you instill something in your mind, like, I want to, accomplish this many pieces? Right.
So I saved up a bunch of money to give myself some cushion. Yeah. To help me pay the bills while I was, but honestly, my main goal is just to get better. Yeah. And still is to this day, is just to continue to progress, to get better, because I don't think I'll ever get to the point. I think that desire to continue to get better will never be satiated. And I think that's what got me to this place, and that's what's going to push me forward. Yeah. So I don't know if there's an end goal there. Right now, my goal is just to continue to see, if I see something I have in my head, that's a beautiful painting. I maybe even see vaguely what the beautiful painting I want to create in my head is. Yeah. But sitting down and doing it is a totally different thing, and doesn't always work out, especially with watercolor, because the medium is so finicky. Like, if I do, like, there's so many failed paintings. I got a stack this tall full of failed paintings.
Yeah, it seems unforgiving.
Very unforgiving. And there's so many times where I get to a point in a painting and I realize, well, this is not, I can't sell this, I can't show this, I would never want to show this to anybody. Yeah. But I'm going to continue to the end of this. Hopefully I can learn a few things throughout the process of working on this painting, and then immediately when I finish, I'm going to sketch again, and I'm going to paint it again, and I'm going to try to do it right. Huh. And sometimes I'll paint things 4 times before I get my final rendition done.
How many times did you paint that clock?
That was one and done. Dude, for sure.
It was crispy.
The Kaufman clock, I appreciate that. But
very great.
In a lot of those, what I do is, it's like a maddening. I just stare at the image and I think, when am I going to paint that part? What layer? Because it all goes down in one big wash.
Yeah, I guess it also makes sense. Like, you have to be conscious of like what part you're doing first, because and when, and the color, because the colors are unforgiving. Right. Yeah, that's interesting to think about that.
Right. It's all about breaking things down in like 4 chunks.
What are the chunks?
At a max, like your lightest value. Yeah. Like, what's going to be your white in the painting? Yeah. Because that's just paper. Yeah. That's blank. You have to paint around that the entire time. And what's your second value? What's like your medium? And then after that, and then sometimes I go up to 6 or 7 values. You know what I mean? Your darkest dark, your lightest light, and every shade in between. Wow. And then laying down one big wash across the whole painting of that value, essentially. That dark of pigment. It's tough.
Yeah, it's an intricate process, I'm sure. What is like, how do you like to paint? Like, are you someone that listens to music? Like, do you smoke weed beforehand? Like, how, like do you have an ideal situation? You said it always doesn't go how it should. Right. So like, do you struggle with like writer or like creativity block?
God, insane. Yeah. It's brutal. Yeah. And the paintings just go bad for like a whole week, and none of them are workable, and none of them look good. None of them are up to my, and other people see them and like, that's incredible. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Which I resent that. Like, Natalie will come down and she'll be like, oh, that looks great. Yeah. And I'm like, no, it's shit. It's bad. And I hate myself and I want to die.
Didn't you tell me she pulled a painting out of your off of your discarded paintings and it's sold?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I hide things. Like I have a stack. Yeah. And we're getting ready for a market, and she'll be like, what about this one? I'm like, yeah, I'm not bringing that one. That one stinks. Yeah. Like, no, I think you should bring it, and then I'll bring it, and then it will sell.
Well, I feel like any good artist needs to be, critical of themselves. Right. You know what I mean? No matter what it is, because it's just what keeps you sharp. It's what keeps you moving. You there.
Right. It's the only thing that gets you to where you're going, is that self-critical part. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be where I am, I think. I wouldn't be where I am as skill-wise. I wouldn't have developed developed my ability to this point for sure. I'm also willing to open myself up and to show things that I've done, even if I don't love them. I'm becoming more and more open to that now, especially now that I have more experience, and I look at things that I might not like now, and I compare them against things that I really liked that I painted 10 years ago. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm miles ahead. If I would have seen this back then, I would think you did it.
Yeah.
You did it. It's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now I look at it and I'm like, that's trash.
Well, that's good that you still feel like that, because you're going to keep pushing more. Now, what does a creative block look like for you?
Just the process of the paint, of accomplishing the watercolor painting the way I want it, because there's a certain essence in watercolor that's drawn me to it that is so indescribable. Like when you look at it, you feel it in a good watercolor painting. There's like a glow to it, and there's like a depth to it. I don't know. You capture the mood more than anything. And if there's something I want to communicate in my painting, and I'm laying the paint down and it's just not speaking to me in the way that the initial image spoke to me.
Yeah.
The initial moment and what I'm trying to convey, and it's not clicking between the two, then it's just like, it's so defeating.
Yeah.
It's like,
so what do you do to get out of it?
I don't know. I can't. Sometimes I just move on. Sometimes I turn back to the climbing wall, right? And I completely reboot. I shut everything down. I'm no longer thinking about any of that. Yeah, especially climbing. Climbing is one of those things you have to be so present that you're totally focused on every point of contact on the wall.
Yeah.
Right? Everything's blocked out, which is one of the things I like about it. Sometimes that'll be a nice hard reboot, but I can't just walk back to the same painting I'm struggling with, because I'm back in that space.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you're immediately reminded of where you were.
Right. So I'll change, even maybe that painting was of a building.
Yeah.
And I go to a boulder, or I go to a lake or a river or something.
Do you have a bunch of unfinished shit?
So much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Piles, maybe 100 paintings in the studio.
And is it like, are you someone that where you could go back to a painting that's like a year and a half old and just feel inspired at some point?
Very rarely, because at that point, sometimes I've moved on so much. I'm not even the same person, and I still feel I'm finding my style. And I mean, if you look at my website or like a lot of my stuff, it doesn't feel like I have a cohesive style until I look at all my work accumulated next to each other, and I'm like, okay, I
feel like to you it might not, but like as someone who looks at all your work, like I feel like you have a style for sure. But that's interesting. I feel like it's always so interesting to hear how an artist of any medium views their own work, because often it's like they're so hypercritical because you're, in air quotes, a professional at this. So like you are more keen to the higher details than the masses. Like I had a friend that used to make music, and he used to drive himself mad. He's like, I can't put this out. It's not like done yet, but it's the people that are consuming it with a way more underdeveloped palette in that way. If you think about it, like we're not artists that are that are like consuming it.
No, you're totally right. And those are huge hangups that sometimes hold you back. Yeah. And it's important to it's not going to be perfect. But that's what's kind of nice about watercolor is, like I said earlier, I hit that moment in the painting where I realized this is not perfect. This is not what I want. I'm just going to keep working on it, and then I'm going to move on. Either do it again, or I'm giving up on this painting as a concept, and I'm going to move on to something else.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to put it out there, because there's a lot of stuff I do like about this painting.
Now, do you how do I want to say it? Like, do you get like a feeling? Do you get like a feeling whenever you finish your painting?
Like the clock, for sure. The whole way through, every wash, every layer that happened, I was like, this is it. This is what I wanted. And honestly, I sketched that scene in pencil on that piece of paper, and it sat around for months.
Really?
Because I didn't know the strategy. I didn't know when am I going to paint this part? When am I going to do that part? How am I going to do it? Am I going to be able to, that painting, I needed a spray bottle to keep my washes wet the whole time while I was working on them. Because if you don't continue to spray your paper, it's going to dry up, and then you get like weird burn marks, or all the pigment doesn't flow the way you want it.
Jesus.
Like there's a certain speed you have to work at. Otherwise, once it's dried, you're not going to get that nice watercolor effect. A lot of watercolor is those nice big clean washes, and you see the way the paint kind of mixes in it, but it also creates an image for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't get a lot of sharp lines all the time, and that's what you're trying to achieve. And so, sometimes when that all clicks and it all comes together, and it's happening, and you're done, and it's like, it's a very rewarding feeling. that you need to remind yourself. You need to feel that sometimes to keep yourself going.
Absolutely.
You don't get that reward. Yeah.
Well, that's why I asked it, because like, I didn't know if you were someone that's like, a piece is never done for me, like, or have that like mentality where, you feel like I could work on something forever, but it's interesting.
I was that way when I worked with acrylic and oil a lot more. And I still do work with acrylics a lot in mixed medias.
Yeah.
Because you can always go back and touch over. You can get your bright back. You can even paint over the thing and change a whole chunk. With watercolor, it's done.
Yeah.
And with my ADD and my just how sporadic I can be, it's nice being forced to let go of something. Because otherwise I'll just fuss with it forever. Or I'll never let it out there. You know what I mean? I know that there's a point of no return for a lot of these things, and I have to move on.
Yeah.
Are
you someone that has a problem with letting go of your work? Like, have you ever painted something where you're like so happy with it, where you love it and you don't want to get rid of it?
I used to a lot, especially when I was working full time, not doing art.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's
like a rare piece.
Right. I was like, I love these things.
Yeah.
I made them. I love them. But now I have to pay bills.
Yeah.
So now I'm painting it. And it's cool to see the more strangers that buy my stuff, the more, knowing that like these things are going out there to somebody I've never met. They're super psyched on them.
Dude, I saw your shit on Reddit blowing up, and it wasn't even, I didn't even know it was you or anything. I randomly saw that picture, and I swear that's why I was like, you definitely have a style, because I immediately, there's another watercolor person that posts on there too, and it's different than yours. Like your styles
on Pittsburgh.
Yeah, there's someone else who posts a lot of like architecture, like a lot of building stuff like that, but it's just a different style. You can immediately tell it's different.
Yeah,
but I don't even remember.
McDonald's piece you saw?
That's what I was just going to say. I don't remember if it was McDonald's or if it was Jack's, but you posted one of these, and I just read the comments, and like people were like, this is fucking crazy. Like, and that got to be such like an amazing feeling to, charge you back up and want to just like keep getting out there and painting these things.
It is, but it also feels gross because it's like a little part of yourself that's like, oh, this is like feeding my ego, but it is reinforcing. It's necessary for sure. It is like, it's the stranger aspect, because like when Natalie tells me she likes something, I'm like, yeah, you're supposed to say that. Like, how do you really feel? And sometimes she's like, I'm not a fan of this. I'm like, that's right.
I mean, I get it. Absolutely, because like my wife obviously is my biggest supporter. Okay. Right. And whenever she talks shit, I get defensive, because like I'm like, this is my thing. I'm creating it, and you're critiquing it, but I need it. But I feel the same way in the effect where it feels gross to get any sort of validation for what you're doing. Right. But in these years of doing this, I don't know. It's such like it's weird how I'm going to reference this, but my wife sent me this video from Lady Gaga, and she's a big Lady Gaga fan, but Lady Gaga was talking to this interviewer, and this interviewer was like basically saying like, oh, you're kind of like cocky or conceited in a way. And she was like, I guess he didn't say it in that way, but she was like, whenever people say they like my work, I think that you should answer and say, thank you. I know I worked very hard at it, rather than being like, kind of like pushing it away. Right. And it's like, and out of some crazy faction that I get a lot of people that say they like the podcast now. It's pretty wild, dude. Just like in the van store the other day, this dude was like, you're the podcast guy. Awesome. And it's like, in the beginning, it's like, I just want to crawl inside and die in the beginning. Cause I don't want to be that one that's like, oh, I'm just like beating people's ear with, I got a podcast, listen to it all the time. But whenever people are like wanting to talk about it, it's cool to feel that, because I've turned to that gross feeling. I've turned that away, and I've turned it into like, motivation is like, I feel like, Mega Man, where it's like, blah, 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 and you're like charged back up to like want to do more of it. But you got to accept it that you're, that you got to accept that like you are a hard worker, and that you're good at what you do, and then that people just enjoy it.
For me, I'm getting better at accepting it. I'm honestly not. I'm worse in the opposite way. Like, somebody tells me they like it, I like it too. Yeah, that's why I do it. Right. Yeah. So when I make the mistake, I feel it's a mistake. I think it's not the right thing to say. You're right. You should say thank you. I appreciate it. that should be, but when somebody says, I love this painting, I go, yeah, isn't it great?
Yeah.
Because that's, and I'll say, I love this part of my painting, because that's me. That's genuinely how I feel.
Yeah.
I think when I say thank you, that's when I feel gross. Cause I'm like, give me, it's kind of the way I'm like, thank you so much. It's like, that felt grosser to me, but now, I don't mind saying thank you. I don't mind any of that. Cause like you said, you see my Reddit comments sometimes and it's like, it's a ton of positive feedback.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just, I see that and I'm like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. It's like a reassurance thing. I can like chill and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you're on the right path.
Because I'm so close to it, I don't know anymore all the time. I wake up, I get my coffee, I go down in the studio, I start painting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just what it is now. And I'm just like worried about paying the car payment or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I could do that in a bunch of different ways. So sometimes I'm like, is this really what I want to be doing? But then when I get all the positive feedback, it's just a little bit of a bump for me. It's a reassurance for sure. And I'm getting better at accepting it, not feeling gross about it, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, for sure.
It makes sense, but it's an interesting thing to experience.
Well, and if I'm going to make a living off of it, I can't make a living if people don't like it.
Yeah.
So I have to know if people like it.
For sure.
Yeah.
It makes sense. So, I mean, like as you approach, your subject matter now, it's just basically, is it whatever?
It really is whatever. It might seem very cohesive because I live in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So I see what do I see? I see Pittsburgh. I see the city around me. I see and it's a place with a lot of dramatic landscapes, big hills, big views, vistas, sometimes crazy houses, audacious. Like, why would you build a house on that hill? That's nuts. Let alone a whole neighborhood. Like it's insane to me. So
it
just
is wild.
The way it looks sometimes, the houses on the hill, all that stuff. Yeah. It'll strike me. And I'm in it. I have 2,200 photos on my phone because I'm just always snapping photos, so I have more content than I could ever want to paint. But when I'm deciding, sometimes it just hijacks me. It tells, like that area I was telling you about up in Barcelona, up on Lake Erie, New York, just like east of Erie, the city.
Yeah.
There's that boat harbor there down there. That's like a dry dock where all these cool sailboats sit up on these stilts right on the water. And I probably took 15 photos on our trip up there, and I've painted 7 of them. And several of them are going to be in the show.
Wow.
Because I love them. I think that's honestly, that dry dock is some of my best work I've ever done. And it's all been painted within the last few months since our trip there. Because when I got back, when I was there, I just saw everything, and it just all, everywhere I looked, painting. This boat, it's all so cool. The way everything is layering up next to each other, all that. And I just had to paint it.
Yeah.
And before I went up there, I was balls deep in the city. I was driving into the city of Pittsburgh, walking around, taking photos and getting back to the studio and painting those.
Yeah.
And that was all I really cared about till I saw the dry dock, and it's really just about where I am at that moment. And I'm kind of at the whims of whatever's striking me. It's not really.
How do you work into, your creative drive, your natural creative drive to working on commissions? Is that difficult for you?
It's very difficult.
Commissions? You seem to be someone that you talk about how things strike you and you have to be motivated and you have to have it inside you. Someone approaching you saying one thing to paint, how do you approach those? Like a job. Yeah. More than anything. Yeah. Not like fun, not like getting ready for this show coming up or any of that. It's like a job. And I get that same feeling when I execute the painting, because I'm not going to give something to the person that has asked me for this painting unless I'm in love with it. I might even put it off. I might even give them their money back before I give them something I'm not happy with. Yeah. So I do still get that reward when I execute the painting the way I want it to. And I've turned down jobs before, either because I don't agree politically in a weird way, it's a weird story, or just because I'm working on other things, and that whatever they're asking me for just isn't up my alley. Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, for the most part, I just think, what is this person looking for? What did they see in my work? And how do I give them that? You know what I mean? While still staying true to myself. Yeah. How do you use what to do?
Well, it depends on
what they want to
what's
do.
being asked of me.
Yeah.
Right. Like some of my commissions, a lot of my commissions come through Reddit, like you were saying.
Yeah.
I post my stuff on different subreddits and forums of things that if these people are into this subreddit, they're probably like, if you're into the Pittsburgh subreddit, you like my paintings of Pittsburgh, hopefully.
Yeah.
You know, and I like the one I was just telling you about the other day, I did a painting of the light rail train in Denver that I really liked.
Yeah.
And I shared it on the Denver subreddit, and a woman reached out to me and said, I have a couple of friends that are getting married in October. They're huge public transportation fans. They love the train. We live in 5 Points in Denver.
Yeah.
We love your painting, but we go to this particular exit. We go to this bar. The train goes right in front of it. We love that the train goes in front of this bar. Can you do a painting for their wedding of this train? So that I've been trying to put myself out there to where I get things that are already up my alley. Like I do a ton of train paintings. That's one of the things I do more than anything else is light rail public transportation painting or train paintings. And so when she asked me for that, I was like, perfect. This is exactly what I want. This is exactly the kind of thing I would paint anyways. And she guided me to this area that I love in Denver. Everything about it lined up. And so that's a kind of painting that like commission painting that I love to do. You know, for sure.
What do you dislike to do? Like what's difficult for you to do?
I had this guy say his dad just passed away.
Yeah.
And and at his dad's funeral, and a lot of these paintings come with a lot of pressure. It's like a wedding. It's something big.
Yeah.
You know, he said, his brother told a story at his father's funeral that one of the last good memories he had with his dad was them watching a fireworks show together. And he wanted me to he sent me a bunch of pictures of him, his dad, his brother, and all different, just smiling for photos.
Yeah.
He wanted them three standing arm in arm watching a fireworks show.
Wow.
in watercolor. Right? I'm like, yeah, totally. Yeah, I need the money, right? I think, okay, I can do this, but you've seen my paintings. I don't paint anything. If I do a figure in my painting, it's like a suggestion.
Yeah.
Or like very, you know.
I like that you say that, a suggestion.
A lot of watercolor is suggesting, for sure. Your brain puts the rest together. I just like put the things there, and then you'd be surprised how much your brain puts the painting together, for sure. But that one was definitely a challenge.
You executed that? It's done?
It's done. Yeah, he took it. He loved it. I mean, everybody's happy. I might not be as happy as something that I do for me.
Yeah.
But I have to accept that and accept that I'm never going to be.
I mean, do you think that you were not happy because it was just like, you know, you had nothing tied to the photo?
I think that's what I have to accept that.
Yeah.
Right,
you know what I mean?
And maybe the painting might lack something in it because my heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And that is sort of a flaw in some commissions and something I have to overcome. And I do overcome in a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know, there was one that was totally out of my comfort zone. A family friend sent me several photos of her in her wedding dress, and then her stepmom, her mother-in-law, her grandmother-in-law, her mom, her grandma, all different photos of each other. And she wanted two paintings, one of her with her biological mom and her biological grandma on either side, and then one of her in her wedding dress with her mother-in-law and her grandmother-in-law in their wedding dresses. This whole big thing. There on my Instagram, if you go check it out. I mean, I think when you like describe the painting, it's like, yeah, this kind of doesn't sound like a spectacular painting, but I really do think she was very happy with it. I was very happy with it. Everybody was very happy. And that was one instance where when I heard the thing and I was going to sit down and just dig down and do it, I was like, oh, this is like hard work.
Yeah.
You know?
That's interesting. I mean, whenever you say it's hard work, it's interesting to think about it in that way where it's like, you know, it's the same thing as a painter, but like that shows to how much like your heart got to be in it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I get like hungry. I put so much brain power in it, and it's been a long time since doing dental work did I just the amount of time
to try to figure it out.
Yeah, my brain is taking so much energy that I'm getting hungry as if I was exercising.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. You know what I mean? That's how I know I'm really pushing my brain sometimes, because I can go a while without eating.
Yeah.
But if I'm like getting hungry, I'm like, oh dang, I'm working right now. You know.
That's interesting. Is there anything that like, you know, like what do you think the weirdest commission was that you've done?
There's one that I turned down.
Can I ask what that is?
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I know we brushed over it real quick. But I'm curious what it is. If it's not too crazy.
No, this girl on Reddit found. I did a painting of Bourbon Street, New Orleans.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't even imagine what this is going to be.
And I posted it on the New Orleans subreddit, and a bunch of people loved it. Whatever. I'm like fishing a little bit for commissions or like people to buy prints, and all of it worked. But this girl reached out to me. She goes, "Okay, so I have an idea for a painting, and I want 2 Confederate soldiers posing for a selfie, like smiling for a selfie on a specific battlefield, on a specific Civil War battlefield, and I want like the Confederate flag in the painting with like it was a very pro-Confederate.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Like in this way that I was just like, and I was in a good place, other commission wise, money wise.
Yeah, we were like, I don't need to necessarily do this one,
right? And she was like, now. It's like when somebody starts a sentence like, no, I'm not racist,
yeah.
but you're like, okay, I'm about to hear the most racist shit in my life.
Yeah.
She goes, I'm not pro-Confederacy, but like, I really think this would be a cool painting.
Man,
and like,
that's like, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, it's kind of not something, if you have any other ideas, like, let me know, but that's not.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that as an artist, I feel like that's what I would struggle with is being able to cultivate creative drive with things that like I just don't care about.
Right.
And I mean, I'm just stubborn in that way. That's why like, this podcast is the way it is. I probably could have grown it to be something bigger by, doing things differently than I would want to, but I just don't want to involve other people in this. I just want to do all this shit myself and, kind of I've just been doing it for so long that I got a system down with it. And I don't know. I just like it to be done a certain way, but I only talk to people that I am interested in because, I don't have a notebook. I don't have a notebook for anyone.
Right.
And like, we have these long conversations where I like dig into these people's lives and I'm just really genuinely fascinated by people. And, it don't matter what it is. It's like, last, 2 days ago, I talked to, people that ran a hotel. And, 2 days before that, it was a rapper and, you're an artist. And it's just, I'm so fascinated by all these people because like, there's so many, I don't know, dude, everyone who I talk to is just like, crazy in some way and just crazy about what they do. Really, that's the way that they're crazy. They're just crazy about what they do. And, whether it drives them mad, whether it makes them insane, like I just want to know why you do what you do. And it's fascinating to see, especially with someone who's as talented as you are. Like I'm a fan of your artwork, dude. I got it hanging up on the studio and it's cool to hear kind of where it all comes from and where it's, where it is. Now, do you do like you said you do other mediums kind of still, like mixed media a little bit?
Yeah. I do some spray paint too and stuff. I did that
come up on that mic.
Yeah, I did that climbing gym over in Lawrenceville, Iron City Boulders. I did a little spray paint job for them.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about getting back into some mixed media. I got like my buddy Narf's been working with some airbrush stuff. He's making it look real fun.
Yeah.
I've been kind of wanting to get back into that, but
are you someone that you've built like a brand as a watercolorist and a great one at that, but like, do you feel any apprehension at like, walking down the other path of doing other mediums? Like, is that like something that like
only from a marketing aspect?
Yeah.
Like, how do I market myself as like if I'm going to put like, I get a lot of inquiries for watercolor commissions.
Yeah.
Because that's what I put myself out there as.
Absolutely.
And it demands a lot of dedication to that medium. So I don't really have room if I'm cornering myself. So I don't, and it's such a rewarding medium.
Yeah.
And there's so many great artists out there that really take it so far that I think there's so much more room for me to explore. But I'm not shy to go. I'll bounce into all types of different things for sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think watercolor is going to be my main driver for the next decade. I think though, for sure.
Next decade.
Yeah.
Do you like do you have like a ritual while you work? Like, are you a music listener? Does it just
music? If I'm in the vibe, if I know everything.
Yeah.
If I know exactly how I'm going to approach a painting, I have it all planned out. I know what colors. I know what I'm going to do, then yeah, I'll kick some tunes on. I'll be standing, I'll be dancing, I'll be singing along.
Yeah.
But if I'm like,
if you're figuring it out, struggling with it,
I'm listening to like Chapo Trap House.
Yeah.
Or like maybe like some political stuff or like some goofy comedic stuff. I try to stay away from like the West Coast podcasts nowadays, and I'm more of like a New York podcast, East Coast guy.
Yeah. Philly type podcast.
Legion of Skanks or Shane Gillis.
Yeah, I was going to say Matt and Shane.
Matt and Shane Secret Podcast.
Yeah, I don't really listen to that many West Coast anymore. I'm a very, very picky guest person for Rogan. I listen to people whenever there's like guests that I want to hear, like Hulk Hogan has just been on there. I got to listen to that.
Yeah, back in the day, it was anybody. Like, I don't even know who this guy is, but I'm going to listen.
Yeah.
He's on Rogan, but
it's
not
weird.
anymore. Yeah.
It's very weird. We were just talking about that, me and my other buddy, because like we were like cultists. We got into it so early.
Oh, dude.
Just because of like UFC. Oh, right. Yeah, exactly.
Like when it was a pod.
And that's like, and now for what it is, it's just crazy to think about it. And it's crazy to see how much it's grown in like 8 or 9 years. But I was like, I always listen to Bert every week, Tom Segura, all them. Like I was a cult follower. Right. I don't really listen to them at all anymore now.
Same. And that's really interesting that you say that. And I think a lot of people,
I feel like that they're just like,
we're going to get in the weeds with the pod verse here.
Well, I feel like people that are listening to podcasts, they might know about it, but it's like,
Okay, so Tom and Christina are so rich.
That's what it is.
Like totally lost touch. Like it used to just be fun.
Yeah.
And it
silly,
felt more
very random.
Silly, random.
Now it almost feels like they got to do it to keep the money rolling in.
Correct. Yeah,
and that's what it is.
And they do because that's how they sell tickets.
And I can't take away from the fact that like I still like belly laugh on like clips of like Two Bears, One Cave, but it's like it doesn't feel, it's not like that raw like that passion where people are just like, I don't know. Back then it was different, dude. It was the fucking Wild West, know.
Right. Yeah, it was fun. Right?
it was fun.
Okay, so as far as West Coast guys, so I like that Rick Glassman.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
He's creative, super talented.
He's fast as fuck,
and
like
no
very
bullshit. Witty, and there's no like he's not a phony.
Yeah,
right. You feel that like genuine
authenticity with it, but it's almost like he leans into it so hard. It's like, does he do it as almost some sort of persona?
I need that.
I know. I get.
I need you to take the piss out of it.
I get
because
it.
If you're too like taking yourself too seriously, like that's when like he takes himself so seriously that he has that I am phenomenal shit where it's like he's come full circle and now he's like a parody of being like a serious guy.
Yeah,
kinda, you know what I mean?
It's interesting. Yeah. I like it though, but I like seeing the trajectory. I used to listen to a lot, but I don't listen to too many podcasts anymore. I listen to Mark Maron. He's probably like, I would say that he's like my biggest inspiration as a podcaster.
Because he's like a syndicated, he's like the Stern of podcasting. Like,
I guess. I just like his way of being tangential and just like really, he could have fucking, Sharon Stone in there, like, and they're talking about like her dad's like tire this was Ray Liotta, his dad's like tire company, and
he's not phony,
at all. He does not give a fuck, and he has no sort of template or, you really don't know what you're going to get. But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the Rogan ones and like, Segura and Bert is just like the same shit over and over.
Correct.
But I digress. I love the podcast though. Like it's good. Now, are you someone like that could, put TV shows on and everything while you're working?
Oh yeah. Especially that when I met Natalie and I got that big boy job, quote unquote, at the dental lab, going from full on sleeping in a tent or on a couch, out doing whatever the hell you want for years and years and years to that.
Yeah.
Was tough.
Yeah.
And I never listened to podcast or anything like that. There's never headphones in my ears for any reason ever, and then sitting down at that bench, making those teeth again, I was like, dude, I can't do this.
Yeah.
This is brutal.
Yeah.
My mind, like I need something. And then that's when I discovered podcasts. And I was like, okay, if I listen to this is going to stimulate my brain. I can
for sure.
That kind of helped me dive into all that stuff.
And it's something different than music, where you could like really like be attentive rather than just hear it playing in the background.
Right.
And
I've been into politics like most of my young life or whatever, being like a young punk rocker, anti George Bush kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
see, like this is something that I just have always been ignorant to it all. Like in school, never paid attention to it, never paid attention to any of it. Obviously, like once 2016 rolls around,
big time,
like punches a lot of people where they're like, maybe I should be kind of, aware of what's going on. Right. But still to this day, it's like I almost like plead like ignorance is bliss, and I know it's a terrible way.
It's really not.
It's terrible because it's like,
what's the point of living in the first world in this country if you can't be totally ignorant?
My whole thing is like I feel like that I'm so far out of the loop that it's almost more. That's why I don't talk about politics at all. It's like I almost feel that I'm so far out of the loop that I could. I just don't want to talk out of school, and that's something that I feel like there's so much
that's better than the opposite.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's like why I that's why I consciously like not stay away from it on the podcast, but it's just like I know what the trending shit is going on, but I don't know a lot of like the reasons behind it all, and that's where I feel like I don't know, almost like lost on it all. You've always been into it?
No, since high school,
for
sure.
But why though? Like, what makes you get into it? Like, what makes you like want to be? I didn't give a fuck about it. I was watching skate videos with Denner. Right. We were just skating.
I didn't realize you guys were tight like that. Yeah.
Dude, Denner was like one of my best friends for a long time.
Oh yeah, Alex is the man.
Yes, he is. He's he's a great guy, and I dude, a lot of stories with him.
I'm sure,
but that was like.
I mean, 9/11 was a precipitous event. I was super young or whatever, but like, I guess like the Obama election was like, I could say my political awakening.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's interesting to hear.
Yeah. What even got me engaged? I don't know. Honestly, just like an inquisitive mind, I guess, or like.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, like that's all really you need to do it. It's like, that's why I'm inquisitive in a different way.
And like in high school, like I remember like military recruiters like hanging out around, you know what I mean? Like the war in Iraq had been going for like 5-6 years at that point. Yeah. And a lot of my friends were getting recruited and some of them getting jacked up already out in the Gorngal Valley and stuff, and like I thought that was all bullshit for sure. Yeah. I don't know. I think it was more just like an antagonistic punk rock mentality of like, okay, anarchy is like a anti-government. Like, what is even? You're like a young punk drawing the anarchy
and you're
symbol
expanding on that,
like, right? And then you're like exploring from there, like thinking about all that. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, SLC punk, watching that like over and over and over again, or like a lot of it was
what a good movie.
Oh, dude. Classic.
It's a classic movie. Matthew Lillard, he doesn't get enough credit.
No, and what is he even up to nowadays?
Dude, he's about to be here like next week at the Steel City Con.
No way.
I've never been like someone.
Steel City Con?
It's like a Comic Con type of thing over in Monroeville at the convention center over there. But Skeet Ulrich is going to be there. Okay. Matthew McConaughey, Nev Campbell, and Jamie Kennedy.
McConaughey. I'm in the middle of True Detective season 1.
Oh my god!
Rewatch right now.
Not Matthew McConaughey, Matthew Lillard. I said,
okay.
Matthew McConaughey, the True Detective, pretty great. Well, speaking of that, do you think that there's anything about your artistic story that I might have strayed away from, or that you would want to touch on, or do you want to get to the ending segment that I do with everyone?
No, honestly, I was a little nervous that I'd have to carry the conversation, but you've done a great job at any lull.
I appreciate
hitting me
that.
with something, dude, and I appreciate it because
I mean, I think it's fascinating, dude. I like whenever I say like I truly just wanted to have you on because I'm fascinated by it all.
I appreciate
that's why I had Narf on. That's why I had Matt on. Like all these people have these lives, and up to this moment, where they are is like everything, like that's everything inside of them right now in that moment. And everyone has a wild story. And that's what's cool about it, dude. The people that own that hotel in Southside that I talked to last week,
I'm really curious about that.
Their fucking story is insane. Just traveling to Egypt and Australia and literally just living in hostels in exchange for cleaning and, just
so cool.
Really enjoying like, just their life in a different way. And then, the dude is wild. He's just crafty. Started the rickshaws in the city. Now they have this. Dude, it's wild.
I got to listen to that.
Definitely a crazy story, but that's what I'm saying, dude. Anyone who comes in here is fascinating. And I think you have a fascinating story. And I think we had a fantastic conversation. There was nothing lacking there at all.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
You think it was thorough as someone who's not an artist trying to get a deep dive in? Do you think that we summed up your persona of an artist as much as we could in this amount of time?
I think so. I think I just want to make nice paintings. It's like really that simple. I want to paint. I want to paint something that I like and other people like, and it's really just that simple. It doesn't matter what it is. Right now, it happens to be Pittsburgh stuff because I love Pittsburgh. Everything's new to me all the time. I drive around; it's all fresh.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And so many different moods. I mean, when it's not, this city gets a lot more sun than it gets credit for, by the way. It's not a gloomy, I was a little nervous about the rain moving out here.
I feel like in the last few years, it's kind of like, it wasn't as crazy, but sometimes I feel like one year you can just slapped and one year, coming up, we're due for something.
Yeah.
We're due for something, but that makes sense to want to just kind of dive into the city a little bit more. Now, do you have a few of your, what's your favorite piece? Do you have one?
Probably Kaufman clock right now.
Yeah.
But the nature of me and how I paint, honestly, my best painting is typically my most recent painting, because it's the one that I finished and I thought was.
How long did that take you, the Kaufman's clock?
That was an afternoon.
Just an afternoon?
Yeah, 4 hours.
That's fucking insane.
4 or 5 hours. I got a hair dryer, right? So I hit that wash. And like I said, okay, if you ask me how long it really took me, months.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm staring at it.
I guess that makes sense.
And I'm thinking, and I'm like.
Yeah, it's not just the hours of the physical painting. It's the process.
Right. And then I do a black and white. That's a fraction, like a thumbnail, black and white value study so I can figure out when I'm going to paint each layer, that kind of stuff.
You read books or anything about art, or is it more just hands-on learning?
There's a guy, Jared Cullum. He's a local artist, author, children's book author. He does watercolor paintings for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book covers.
He's local to Pittsburgh?
Local to Pittsburgh. He worked with Jim Henson.
What's his name?
Jared Cullum. I've taken classes from him both in person and online. Courses from him. Any chance you get, definitely check him out. Jared Cullum. He's a badass local, probably the best watercolor artist locally in Pittsburgh for sure. And there's a lot of great watercolors. That lady that you sent me?
Yeah.
She's rad.
That was wild, right?
Dude, she's so good.
I saw that randomly on my Explore page, and I was like, damn, and I saw that it was from Pittsburgh. And
Hyper
I was
local. Yeah, so I really like that. Yeah. And Jared Cullum has taught me a lot about but there's like James Gurney. Anybody that's into stuff like what I do would know about James Gurney. He's an illustrator, author from back in the day, still doing it. YouTube, if you're into YouTube, check out James Gurney. There's one where he's just at the airport waiting to board a flight and paints the plane in watercolor and gouache of that he's about to board, and it's mind blowing. Every video, check out James Gurney for sure.
Yeah, I could definitely get lost in those things. I swear I spent an afternoon just watching this dude. He had an Altoids can, and he just did that little paint, and he's painting these fucking insane oil paintings of Italy or something.
And he
wild.
explains it step by step.
Yeah,
why he's doing.
It's cool, and that's why I like it. Is because you're kind of getting an idea, not just the painting, but he's kind of talking them through it.
Right. I study a lot. I'm very inquisitive for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah, I got a bunch of books. If I want to branch these boats I've been painting, I'll go look at boats I'll go look at all my favorite artists. How have they painted their boats? And I look at the paintings, and just like watercolor, so procedural, I look at the paintings and I try to understand, when did they do this step? How did they accomplish this step? How much water was used? How little water? How dry? How wet?
Yeah. You're just reverse engineering everything.
And I'm reverse engineering. And master studies are super important. If you're a young up and coming artist, find the masters that do what you're trying to do the best, and just paint their painting. And you'll learn so much. Recreate their painting, and it'll teach you a lot about how to get to that level.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Master studies are super. And that's something I learned from Jared Cullum. In his classes, he's like, we're going to look at these guys. I'm going to have you try to recreate it as best you can. And, and he'll teach, you want to look at what do they do the best, and why are they the best at that kind of thing.
What makes them that? Yeah, right. That's interesting to think about. That's cool to hear that process of it all.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to learn. There's so many. There's just ages of other artists that came before you that did so much work. Why would you not try to soak up some of what they've already put in? To try to improve yourself. For sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting to hear. You're a fascinating dude. All right, let's get to the ending segment. Right. Ending segment that I do with everyone is an ending segment called Desert Island Questions.
Oh, boy. I should have prepared for this. Dude, you need to be hitting the soundboard the whole time.
I got soundboards in here like this right there. I got all that set up ready.
That's that old Howard Stern stuff. All right.
Ending segment that I do with everyone is called Desert Island Questions. Desert Island Questions, whenever I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island until they starve to death and die. First category is movies. Get 3 movies to take on a desert island. What would they be? SLC Punk.
3 movies? Yeah, let's do SLC Punk. That'll keep me grounded. Oh man, movies. Yeah, I definitely should have thought about this before.
This is why I don't. That's why I don't ask people to think about it. These questions are designed to talk about things that are just pulsing through your mind whenever I ask that.
Right. Well, okay. Let's throw a Wes Anderson flick in there because those are always fun.
Which one?
Moonrise Kingdom.
Okay.
Why not? That's fun.
Okay.
That's a fun one. So we got SLC Punk, Moonrise Kingdom. Now we got to get some horror in there, like a fun horror romp. Why not go all the way with Terrifier? Just because you got to mix it up. And those are 3 terrible desert island movies.
Yeah, to watch over and over and over again. Yeah.
No, there's some better horror. I mean, even like Hereditary or something. I don't know.
Incredible. Did you watch? Did you see the new one? Talk to Me.
Mm-mm.
Man,
no. Hold up. I watched a new because I know you're into horror.
Yeah.
There's Something Wrong with the Kids, I think it was called, last night.
Where'd you watch it?
It felt fairly indie. It might have been HBO or Hulu. I'll send it to you tonight. But like literally, it starts off so lame. Yeah. You're like, this is gonna be one of those movies that's so bad it's good, and I'll probably just sit here and make fun of it the whole time. And
I'm right into
enjoy it. But then when the kids start to turn, because it's called "There's Something Wrong with the Kids" or something like that.
I feel like I've heard it. I feel like it sounds familiar.
And it feels like very PA kind of thing. Like it starts, they're going camping and they explore like an abandoned building catacomb kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And the kids stare into a hole and all of a sudden you can tell the kids are like already fucked. And they spend the entire time like
I'm going to watch it. Just send me it.
Yeah, it's good.
There's something wrong. Yeah, something.
There's something wrong with the kids. Yeah.
I'm a big horror guy. Did you watch the new one, Talk to Me?
No. What is
good.
that?
That's a movie. It's like a new A24 movie.
Okay.
It's about these kids who they have like a necromanced hand, and it's like I don't know if it's like a nod to like drugs or something like that, but they go to parties and they do seances and they like connect with the dead through this necromanced hand. And
is it campy or is it like grounded in reality somewhat?
It's
like
reality,
an A24.
dude.
Okay.
It's fucking. It's.
Okay.
I mean, it's like
And
I
where
would
can
say.
I find it?
It's. I think it's still in theaters.
Okay.
It literally just came out, but
Okay.
it's fucking insane, dude. Like you. It was one of the movies I was hearing about. For you were reading all these reviews saying it was like fucking incredible, and I take it with a grain of salt, but it was like a breath of fresh air. Very, very good.
I'm in.
Okay, so you got 3 movies. Do you read it all?
No.
Never were
I'll
a
listen
reader?
to a book, but yeah, I'm not really. I've seen you've been getting into it.
I've been getting into it. I usually ask people 3 books to read. Do you have any books that you would want to take on a desert island?
Damn, 3 books. No, because even like I read Clockwork Orange when I was young, and it's like a terrible book to read. You know what I mean? Like,
all right. What about this? If you could pick 3 pieces of art equipment to take on a desert island, what would they be?
I guess my watercolor palette.
Yeah.
But what am I going to do about paper? That's tough.
I mean, you could take paper as an item.
Right, but I'm going to run out of paper. So I need so then I'm going to switch. I need like a canvas with like oil paints and stuff. You know what I mean?
You can just keep using it over and over
keep
again.
Painting over the same painting for sure. Yeah.
I guess that's a dumb question, but hey, it's better than no question.
No, it's better. And you had to pivot from books.
Look at that. I'm a professional.
Yeah.
Okay. Third category, 3 CDs.
Hold on, no, we got to double back to books because you're the book reader. I don't read books. I'm not. opposed to books. Give me some books. Like what
Dude, I'm not a big. I mean, like
Okay.
I'm
But you've
very.
read a few
I've recently read a few. The best book I've ever read is a book called City of Thieves.
Okay.
It's about it happens during Nazi Germany, and it's from the Russian end of it all, and it's
Double in.
This Russian town is like fenced off, and they're like still fighting the Germans away. And inside they have like their own rules and everything. And these young kids, like 13, 14, whatever, they all live like people have already abandoned this place. And it's just like the young boys and like an occasional woman. And they are every night they're on their roof, like, staking it out as young kids, not even like officially in it,
right?
But they're pretending, and they see this Nazi soldier like parachuting down, and it lands inside the fence. So they go out. They go out after curfew, and he ends up getting pinched. But he gets a second chance from the Russian colonel if him and another thief who got in trouble that night could go across enemy lines and get a dozen eggs for his daughter's wedding.
Okay.
And it sounds like such a weird premise, but I don't know, dude. It was like a fucking...
No, I mean, in World War II, it's always a great setting.
It was so good. I read it in a day. Wow, very, very great.
All right, I'm glad.
I have a copy. I'll just give you it, and you can just read it, dude. It's really, really good.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm just, I don't know. I've been liking reading lately. I haven't been watching too much. But what about CDs? You get 3 CDs.
3 CDs.
Come up on that mic, please.
Yeah. Yep. We're gonna go Deftones.
Oh yeah.
I guess Adrenaline or Around the Fur.
Okay.
Adrenaline, I never get sick of. It's like the old raw Deftones.
Yeah.
Sound, but Around the Fur has enough hits where I think I'd be able to stick with that. And
yeah.
Adrenaline's pretty obscure. Yeah. Deftones, Around the Fur's number 1. We'll go hip hop. There's so many great front to back hip hop albums, like Nas Illmatic, front to back, never get sick of that, or like a Tribe kind of thing. Like Method Man and Redman Blackout. We'll do that at number 2.
That's a good album.
Yeah, that's great front to back.
Yeah. My brother had that.
And then what would I do for a third album? Because we got to branch more genres here. There's a lot of punk there. How about a Ween album, like Chocolate and Cheese by Ween?
Never listened to it.
I love Ween. Ween has a lot of, they do like country albums, punk albums. Chocolate and Cheese is kind of poppy but fun, playful.
I'll have to listen to it.
Yeah. Ween is great.
Third to last question is the death row meal. So the death row meal, before you're put to death, you get an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert. What would they be?
They would all come from the same place.
Oh, yeah?
Or the same type of place, because this restaurant no longer exists anymore because the owners split. There's a Mexican restaurant in Denver. But so basically the dish is a green chili smothered burrito. Green chili for
I'm in
the
already. Green.
Uninitiated is a green chili is a pepper that grows in the Hatch Valley of New Mexico.
Yeah.
Very popular. They make chili with it. I make chili. Giant Eagle gets imported green chilies from Hatch Valley once a year.
Yeah.
That I make sure to roast and freeze so that I have enough green chilies. It's like a staple dish in the Denver area, New Mexico also. So it's a shredded beef burrito smothered in green chili. That's my main course with cheese and lettuce and stuff. As an app, I just gotta go chips and salsa because that is what would go with that burrito and
That's
what
good.
I would get before. So chips and salsa, and then we're gonna keep it on the same menu. So I'm gonna go deep fried ice cream, like a Mexican style deep fried ice cream coated in cornflakes, deep fried with some cinnamon sugar on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's a main course?
That's it, the burrito. So the chips and salsa is the app.
Okay.
I hit them out of order for you.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. You have me on my toes.
The burrito smothered in green chili, maybe a side of green chili because I'm going to die the next day. So
I'm good for all that. I'm good for all that. That's a good answer. Okay, second to last question. You're getting ready to go on a road trip. You go into a gas station. What's your snack of choice?
Snack of choice. So were you talking just food or drinks?
I'll give you one of each.
Yeah. I like a nice iced coffee, but those are tough to come by because it's all so sugary.
Yeah.
Nowadays, either you're getting a bitter black coffee in a can or something with way too much sugar.
That's exactly it. There's either the Starbucks like black coffees or unsweetened, or you either get that milk.
Right. But Colombe is
Yeah.
like a company.
They're good. They got a
they're
white cans.
The white can
Yep.
triple shot. That's
Yep.
probably the number one because that's going to get me through my drive.
Yeah.
And then Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its is my go-to.
I like a Cheez-It.
Extra toasty.
Yeah, those are good ones. The extra
I used to
toasted.
have to seek those out until they
Dude.
started giving them to me.
Hilarious. I had this epiphany the one night, and I'm like, we're all fucking idiots because the Cheez-It company, probably Frito-Lay, whoever owns it, they are, selling us the fuck ups. They're
Yeah.
repurposing the fuck ups, and we're paying them twice.
Yeah.
And,
The QC guy was probably taking them home every day.
Yeah,
And was
exactly.
like, I mean, I got to reject them because they're brown, but they're still good.
Million
So, like,
percent. Million percent.
Yeah.
And they're just being smart now. You know, the inside of a Kit Kat is all the broken pieces of Kit Kats, all the broken wafers, like blended up and shit.
Wait a second.
I've heard that.
Like they repurpose them, like
Yeah.
and make them again.
Yeah. No. Like, they repurpose them as the filling on the inside of a Kit Kat, like the wafer pieces and maybe like pieces of the chocolate. I believe I read this online, so hopefully I'm right. But they blend it all together, and that's like what is in between the wafers
Between
and
the
shit.
wafers. That's smart. It's
Yeah.
like
Smart, right?
Wendy's, their chili is the burgers that weren't sold the night before, and they chop up those burgers and put that in the chili.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's a true Wendy's fact.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Look, we're learning all kinds of shit on here. Okay. Last question. Yeah, we're at the last question.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
I mean, there's so many different people for so many different reasons.
Yeah. If it's not a loved one, if it's someone that you're not like affiliated with, obviously I'm sure you would want to talk to a loved one, a friend, but
No, I would want to like talk to somebody that supposedly saw something crazy.
oh yeah.
Like a UFO site, like Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
But I hear Jimmy Carter's like very vague about his UFO sighting.
Yeah. Or the two people, I can't remember their names. They were two older people. They were like the first documented sighting.
They're abducted and got like hypnotized
Yeah.
to like bring back like what they experienced.
Yeah,
or
I
whatever.
can't remember what that was. It would be cool to talk to someone who was in like one of the big cults like Jonestown or like the
you
Heaven's
go.
Gate cult.
I like that.
And like,
yeah, somebody that experienced something nuts that you would want that firsthand account
yeah.
of. Somebody that like works at Area 51.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Bob Lazar.
Or even some like wild people that were involved with like, some, people that were taking down like, shooters and stuff like that,
Right.
like the SWAT teams that were in there. The guy that I've been watching videos on TikTok of the guy who killed bin Laden. And
yeah.
it's fucking wild to, just hear his recount of it. And I don't know, some podcasts where they talk about like, military, like, big dogs in the military. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, like somebody that, yeah, or like, who's the dude that shot Kennedy supposedly?
What the fuck is his name now?
Not Hinckley, because that's the dude that shot Reagan. The book suppository, whatever, depository.
I can't remember what the fuck his name is.
Yeah, why?
It's not John Wilkes Booth. That's Abraham Lincoln.
That's we got all the other presidential assassins.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
That's it.
Fucking
Oswald.
idiots.
Right. Because then you could talk to him and you'd be like, what really went down?
Yeah.
You'd be like, I swear it wasn't me. You'd be
Yeah.
like, yeah, I already knew.
That's that's a good idea. That's a good loophole. I never thought about that. That's good. I think we had a fucking good conversation.
I think so too.
How can people find your work?
So nickrubeart.com.
Yeah.
Is my website. Nick_watercolors. Nick_Ruble watercolors. But if you just search Nick Ruble, it
Yeah.
should pop up. And yeah, I have my first museum exhibit opening next week at the John A. Herman Memorial Museum in Bellevue, up in Northside.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
When's that start?
That is Saturday, September 9th at 5 o'clock.
Saturday, September 9th at 5.
Yeah, at 5. It's going to run till 10.
Okay.
And yeah, I have like over 24 brand new pieces. I've been really keeping everything under wraps, trying not to share anything on my Instagram.
Yeah.
In the upcoming week, in the lead up, I'm going to start leaking some sneak peeks and stuff, but I have honestly, a lot of my best work has not been seen yet, and it's going to be on display there.
A lot of that dry dock?
A lot of that dry dock, probably about 5 or 6 brand new paintings of the dry dock. Yeah,
That's sick.
and the exhibit's going to be open until the end of October. So the museum's going to be displaying my work for 2 months.
Oh, sick.
But the big night's going to be September 9th.
Yeah, that's when the
everybody's
party
gonna
is.
Be there. That's when the party is. I wasn't able to lock down streets
Yeah.
because they were going to be I was initially going to be this upcoming weekend, Labor Day weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And I had it all lined up with one of the trustees. And then when I talked to the museum director, he was like, yeah, we're not doing it Labor Day weekend. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I guess we'll do it the next weekend. And then I talked to Matt, and he was like, yeah, I'm booked that weekend. So no food truck, but we're still going to have food and drinks there.
Okay.
Going to be some music and stuff. And yeah, it's going to be a good time. It's
Good
a great
vibe.
museum. Yeah. And you can, upstairs, there'll be John A. Herman will have all of his stuff displayed, who's the guy that was the local artist that passed away, left all of his money, left all of his paintings and stuff to a trust, which is now the museum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. It needed a lot of great work. He traveled all over the world, a lot of great watercolors, a lot of great oil paintings. Yeah, it's definitely something to see.
September 9th.
September 9th.
John Herman Museum.
John Herman Museum.
All
It's
right.
going to be awesome.
All right. Everyone else that's listening, appreciate it as usual. Each and every week, back with another great guest doing great things in the city. Thank you for listening. Call you right back.